Chapter 1753. Ever since the mermaid's tears moved, Han Fei was no longer in the mood to lie down. He couldn't wait to get to the king grave. 2 hours later, when the fleet sailed into a place where the turbulent sea currents were extremely turbulent, they finally stopped. A group of people had already gathered here. Among them, there were 32 undersea divine boats of the 100 demons and 31 deep-sea ships of the human race. When the human beings arrived, they immediately caught the attention of many kings. The man from the Grand Purity Palace snorted when he saw these people. I was wondering who it was. Sure, Huang. Only 6 kings came this time. Do you think the 100 demons don't dare to attack us? Then he smirked. Tianwu, I heard that you even detonated your heavenly centipede staff in the outer sea a few days ago. You've embarrassed the sea tribe. How dare you come to the last grave king's land today? Standing at the bow of the boat, Han Fei recognized the old man named Tianwu. It was this guy who had been fighting with the snow girls in the violent hurricanes. But how long had it been? That old guy was here to meddle in the affairs of the king grave again? The heavenly centipede snorted. Ji Xian, don't gloat. Do you have the guts to yell at Yi Qinglong when he comes? Let's see if you have the guts. Humph. Yi Qinglong is Yi Qinglong, and you are you. Tianwu, when you're old, you'd better prepare to die in your nest. If you keep showing up, you won't be able to go back. Sherpa Huang of the 100 demons sneered. Tianwu, don't waste your time talking to him. It's just a quarrel. Ji Xian, you only have 18 kings. How many kings do you think the mermaids will send? Swish, swish, swish. As soon as this person finished speaking, he saw one undersea divine boat after another appearing in this sea region through the void transfer technique. When the 8 kings closed in on them, the king of the sea demons finally surpassed the human king. One of the 8 kings of the mermaids stood on the head of a giant serpent. If this serpent was included, there would be a total of 9 monarchs from the merfolk tribe. The man wore an azure robe and held 2 truncheons in his hands. He glanced at Ji Xian and said, I didn't expect you to be the one leading the team in the king burial ground. It looks like Xian Xinzi has really aged. Ji Xian snorted softly. Whether teacher Xian Xing is old or not, you'll naturally know when you see him next time. As for you, Yi Qinglong, I heard that you lost to Chun Huangdian a while ago. It seems that the title of the 3rd king of the mermaids has indeed changed hands. Yi Qinglong raised his eyelids. You can give it a try. For a moment, all sides were at daggers drawn. While the beast kings were challenging each other, Han Fei's eyes were scanning the crowd of mermaids. Until Han Fei saw a familiar figure with a red ribbon on her head and a big starfish on her shoulder appeared in front of him. All of a sudden, Han Fei's heart trembled and his breathing became slightly rapid. The snow girl couldn't help but glance at Han Fei. What do you think? Han Fei shook his head slightly. I'm just amazed that there are so many foreign experts. The snow girl was speechless. You call this many? If you dare to show your true strength now, I'm afraid that no more than 100 people under the Beast King level would dare to fight you. Han Fei and the others looked at the mermaids. It wasn't surprising at all. It could be said that all the people on the big ships of the 36 Black Heavens were actually looking at the mermaids' camp. Even in the camp of the 36 Black Heavens, someone exclaimed, Look, the mermaids have such a beautiful woman, and she's put away her fins. She looks exactly like a human being. It's impossible to tell her apart. Someone said, no matter how beautiful she is, so what? On the path of cultivation, how can you be charmed by beauty? Besides, she's just a mermaid. Xia Xiaochan had long been used to these looks, so she always ignored them. However, when she glanced at the crowd, she was slightly surprised when she saw Han Fei. She felt that the masked guy's eyes seemed a bit familiar. However, that person's temperament was too cold. Following Xia Xiaochan's gaze behind him, Bai Muling said, This should be the newly born heavenly talent of the Snow God's Temple. His name seems to be Saint Child Shuizhan. It's said that he can fight to a draw with an avenger named Han Fei. Haha, I think they're just 2 guys who boast about each other. When Bai Muling said Han Fei's name, Xia Xiaochan's body stiffened slightly, and she couldn't help looking at the boundless sea. In the past few days, she had been extremely grumpy because the name of the avenger, Han Fei, had reached her ears. Xiao Xiaochan wasn't quite sure. Who on earth was that avenger? But if it was Han Fei, she was a little suspicious. After all, Han Fei was in the yin-yang heaven. She could understand as long as she read the historical materials. However, after learning about the historical materials of the chaotic vast sea, Xiao Xiaochan knew that the yin-yang heaven had disappeared for 80,000 years. During this long time, Xiao Xiaochan had made a lot of inquiries. However, many people said that the yin-yang sky had already fallen in the savage abyss a long time ago. The savage abyss was in the outer sea. Although Xiao Xiaochan had tried to sneak out several times, she was caught back in the end. Logically speaking, Xiao Xiaochan was strong enough now. However, her identity was too special. Even among the mermaids, she rarely showed up. This time, she was only able to come out because Chun Huangdian agreed to it. Otherwise, Xiao Xiaochan would still be cultivating in seclusion in the mermaid royal family. At this time, Situ Yuhong said, "This person's strength should be quite good. He has been hidden by the snow god's temple for so many years and released at this critical moment. Only the sea pigs can't figure out the deep meaning behind it. Bai Muling, although he is an enemy, don't underestimate him." Bai Muling snorted, "If you meet this person, you will know that I'm telling the truth when I take him down. Only someone with mediocre strength like you will think so much." When the two of them began to bicker with each other, the hexagon starfish also turned its 6 big eyes in confusion in the direction of Han Fei. The hexagon starfish thought to himself, "Why do I feel that that person's eyes are always glancing at me? Is he going to attack me?" Immediately, the hexagon starfish moved from Xia Xiaochan's right shoulder to her left shoulder with a swish, trying to avoid that person's eyes. Of course, apart from Xia Xiaochan and the other heavenly talents. On another ship, a mermaid was looking in Xia Xiaochan's direction coldly. On the snow god, Bing Shui Chu Ling said, "It seems that this time is more difficult than I thought. The mermaids, the undersea humans, and the 100 demons. As many as 20 well-known experts could be recognized at a glance. Among them, Bai Muling, Situ Yuhong, and Yu Xiaoxiao were the most famous. Bai Li of the 100 demons, Shun Yu, and Xiao Chun of the undersea humans are all the top heavenly talents of their clans. It is said that they are all half-king realm experts with extraordinary strength. They even seem to have sea-quelling bizarre treasures in their hands." Bing Shui Chu Ling said as she watched. However, she had only cultivated for a few hundred years. She didn't know many of them, so she could only tell Han Fei about the few she knew. But now, how could Han Fei listen to her? He didn't care which heavenly talent they were from. He only saw Xia Xiaochan. As for the others, if they dared to stand in his way, he would just kill them. The snow girl didn't explain to the two of them. After all, with Han Fei here, Bing Shui Chu Ling's safety was guaranteed. Besides, it shouldn't be difficult for Han Fei to get the key to the imperial palace. The snow girl said, "In a land where the kings died, there are too many means and traces of battles of the kings. Although tens of thousands of years have passed, some powers are hard to dissipate. The charm of the Great Way will always remain. So, you must be very careful this time. You 4 half-kings will eventually embark on the treasure hunt, but you'd better work in pairs. In this way, you can take care of each other and don't be afraid of any danger." The snow girl's meaning was very clear. She meant that the half-kings and the peak-level venerables would be separated. She asked Han Fei to team up with Bing Shui Chu Ling to protect her. After all, the snow girl's hope was always on Bing Shui Chu Ling. After the major forces stayed for a while, Yi Qinglong said, "It seems that no one from the behemoths will come. If so, let's get started." The kings of the major forces nodded. None of them expected that there would be one less enemy in the land where the kings died. Originally, after years of exploration, the resources inside had been getting lesser and lesser. If they continued to explore, the resources that could last for another 10,000 years might be almost all gone. So, this time, the kings all warned, "Don't worry about how many treasures and opportunities you can get from this trip. As long as it's an opportunity, just take it." The snow girl said, "There's no need to search for the ordinary secret realms in the land where the kings died. The powerful opportunities that can still be found can only be found in those dangerous places." As she spoke, the snow girl waved her hand casually, and 24 jade slips appeared in the sky. The snow girl said, "This is the map of the land where the kings died. Not only us, but every family has it." Then, the snow girl said to Han Fei alone, "The life and death of the peak-level venerables are determined by fate. If you're not here, you may not be able to save them in time, but don't worry. The previous deal remains the same. The key to the Imperial Palace and Chu Ling's safety are the most important." Han Fei replied, "Since I promised, I'll keep my promise." At this time, Yi Qinglong of the Merman race, Ji Xian of the Supreme Purity Palace, Tian Ho of the human race of the seabed, and Sherpa Huang of the 100 demon race each took out a large bone that corresponded to the skeletons of each race. The 4 big bones were broken, and their power gathered in the air like swirling gravel. Then, a round cave in the sea of energy appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 1754. The size of the secret realms might be different. However, the way to enter the secret realms was almost the same. All the big secret realms had to be opened by strong masters. If someone opened it without permission, the others wouldn't be happy. In that case, a war might break out. The land of the fallen king was just a slightly larger secret realm. Was it dangerous? Let's not talk about it for now. Maybe because there were too many dangerous places in this small world, they weren't teleported randomly when they entered the secret realm. When Han Fei and Bingxue Chuling led a group of 24 peak-level venerables into this world, Han Fei felt that it was crazy. The seawater here was freezing, the air of death was unbelievably dense, and the spiritual energy here was abundant. All in all, this was a place suitable for the strong to live, but definitely not for the weak. A group of merfolk came in with Han Fei and Bingxue Chuling. However, when the two sides first entered, there was no battle between them. Everyone tacitly turned around and explored the depths of the secret realm. At this moment, everyone took out their jade slips and saw that the peak-level venerables bowed to Han Fei and Bingxue Chuling. "Lord Holy Child, Lady Holy Maiden, we're leaving." Bingxue Chuling said, "Remember, 1 month. You only have 1 month. You must go back in 1 month. Otherwise, if you stay here and no king opens the channel, you'll most likely die. I've never heard of anyone cultivating here for 100 years. Not a single person has done so for tens of thousands of years. You should know what this means." "Got it." Everyone responded one after another, and with a swoosh, they dispersed just like that, like streaks of light and shadows, scattering in all directions. After all of them were at the peak of the exalted realm at the very least. Since they'd arrived at the peak of the exalted realm, none of them were ordinary. Most of these people also believed that opportunities had to be fought for by themselves. That was a rule. They had fought their way through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. There was no reason for them to run away, right? On the other side, the merfolk did the same thing as the Snow God's palace. Han Fei and another member of the Undersea clan accidentally looked at each other. There were still 5 half-king level venerables on the other side, but they didn't attack. Obviously, they had the same reaction as the Snow God's palace. Everyone came here to hunt for treasures and the key to the Imperial Palace. Fighting and killing before seeing the key and treasures? This made no sense at all. The chaotic Azure Sea was different from small places like Inyang Heaven and Waterwood Heaven. The territory of an immortal palace was only so big. When one's strength rose to a certain level, it was inevitable that they would run into each other frequently, and naturally, there would be no lack of killing. Thus, for a long time, in small places like the Inyang Heaven and the Waterwood Heaven, the enmity between them deepened as they fought. That's all. I'm gonna play with you. However, in the chaotic Azure Sea, humans had many enemies, but humans did not weaken. The sea demons couldn't eat the immortal palace, not even the pirates. After all, pirates also had strength and were extremely rampant. Therefore, although humans and sea demons were enemies in the chaotic Azure Sea, when they met, they would have to fight and compete for treasures. Only then would they become great enemies. As for the perennial wars, there were none. Affected by the various terrifying dangers of the chaotic sea region, the number of people who died at sea every year or even every day, was much more than those who died in wars. When only the four of them were left, Bingxue Chuling said to the two demi-kings, Chuyang, Qinyu, you two go together. Remember, your life is the most important thing. Your life is more important than the key to the imperial palace, understand? The two nodded slightly. Understood. Don't worry, Holy Virgin. We know what we're doing. Han Fei's arrangement was actually very fast. As soon as the two demi-kings left, more people came in one after another. Han Fei and Bingxue Chuling looked at each other and decided to find a place to leave first. And Han Fei didn't want to start fighting prematurely. Even if these people were not poor, they certainly didn't have the key to the imperial palace. He didn't care about it at all. Swish, swish, the two flew away. After flying for more than 200,000 kilometers, they came to a sea of flowers with more than 30 kinds of flowers. Han Fei glanced around and couldn't help but ask, "Is this thing related to the 100 Flowers Palace?" Bingxue Chuling shook her head slightly. "I'm not sure about that. According to the highest 5-star difficulty recorded on the Jade Slip, this place is only 2-star. Also, there's a warning about the sword intent." Without hesitation, Han Fei directly fused with Little Black and Little White. In order to hide their identities from the Yin-Yang Heaven, the two of them hadn't come out for a long time. At this moment, when Han Fei looked with the Yin-Yang divine eyes, he immediately found something wrong. To Han Fei's surprise, a large amount of power in this sea of flowers was gathering in one place. Han Fei walked more than 600 kilometers in one step and found the source of this sea of flowers. In the middle of the thousands of flowers, there was a palm-sized red flower. Han Fei didn't pay much attention to it. He just felt that this flower was a bit unusual. Han Fei reached out and scooped, and a tremendous amount of grass and leaves suddenly soared up. There were hundreds of millions of them. Swish, swish, swish. Han Fei's casual scooping poked the billions of sword chi that suddenly soared into the sky. Seeing this scene, Han Fei stomped his foot, and arrays appeared under his feet. The coiled turtle array instantly protected Bingxue Chuling. In Han Fei's eyes, information popped up. Name, sword grass, introduction, an exotic demonic plant born after being instilled with a large amount of sword chi and vitality. Where the sword grass grows, it will actively hunt all the creatures that pass by it to provide nutrients for itself. The center of the sword grass will produce sword fruits, which can be taken to comprehend sword intent. Level 85 contains chaotic energy greater than 12 wisps, effect, armor penetration, infinite, collectible, sword fruit, absorbable. Han Fei was slightly taken aback. It was indeed the King Grave that hadn't been opened for 100 years. Even this 2-star difficulty could provide 12 wisps of chaotic energy and produce spiritual fruits like the sword fruit. That was really rare. Han Fei flicked his fingers, and the infinity water floated out. In an instant, thousands of knives swept across. Han Fei landed in the middle of the meadow openly, letting the sword grasses bombard him. Bingxue Chuling didn't know what to say when she saw this scene. Although these grass and leaves weren't that powerful, there were a lot of them. Such a tremendous amount of sword chi bombarded her body, and she didn't feel good at all. But Han Fei was plucking the grass with his bare hands. The moment Han Fei stretched out his hand, he saw the little flower burrow into the ground as if it wanted to escape. However, Han Fei wouldn't let a flower run away. The void lines had long been prepared. The moment the little flower retreated, it was caught by Han Fei. Han Fei waved his hand, and a plant creature that looked like a big pin drilled out of the ground. On the root of this creature, there was a sword-shaped spiritual fruit about the size of a finger. Han Fei pulled the sword fruit down without hesitation, and the chaotic energy in the big radish was being swallowed by Han Fei. Bingxue Chuling said, "This must be a sword grass. I've heard people from the 100 Flowers Palace mention it, but I've never seen it. So this is what it looks like." Holding the big radish, Han Fei said, "It's just a 2-star difficulty. This radish, well, the power of this grass has reached the intermediate venerable level. The 3-star difficulty should correspond to the level of the peak level advanced venerable. The 4-star difficulty should at least correspond to the peak level venerable. Excluding the dangerous places below 4-star on the map, there are a total of. Bing Xue Chuling immediately answered, "There are 102. Han Fei frowned and said, "That's still too many. They are all peak level venerables. If we're here for the 4-star dangerous places, there's no need for us to come here at all. So, exclude the 4-star dangerous places too." This time, before Bing Xue Chuling said anything, Han Fei got the result at a glance. 12. Han Fei said, "It seems that the opportunities we're looking for are also in these 12 5-star dangerous places. Hey, wait, what's the meaning of the black place on the map? There are 3 on the map." Bing Xue Chuling said, "This is a dangerous place. I once heard from my senior brothers that the land of the king perished is a dangerous place that is difficult to pass through and only a slim chance of survival." Han Fei sneered. "What's so difficult about it? You think it's difficult here? Do you want to go to the imperial palace in the future? Isn't that courting death?" Bing Xue Chuling frowned slightly. "Are we going to the dangerous place directly?" Han Fei pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "Wait a minute." Another clone appeared next to Han Fei. Han Fei took off the mask on his face, pressed it on the clone's face, and smiled. "I'll send a semi-king projection to follow you to the 5-star dangerous place." Bing Xue Chuling asked in surprise, "Where are you going?" Han Fei said, "I have my own things to do. Don't worry. If everything goes well, you'll know." One of Han Fei's projections was already a semi-king. Bing Xue Chuling felt that this semi-king projection should be able to easily kill a semi-king. This projection and Han Fei didn't seem to be any different for the time being. Bing Xue Chuling more or less knew what Han Fei and the Snow Girl talked about. She knew that Han Fei was not a stingy person. Since he said he had something to do, he really had something to do. Besides, there were only 12 5-star dangerous places and only 3 dangerous places. A month was enough for Han Fei to visit them many times. It was impossible for Han Fei to never return. Han Fei stepped into the void and left. In his hand, the nautical panorama pointed in one direction. Han Fei murmured, "Treasure hunting is not as important as a wife." Chapter 1755. The reason why Han Fei and Bing Xue and Chu Ling chose a random dangerous place to explore was to avoid encountering a large group of people at the beginning. At that time, if there was a conflict, should he fight or not? If he fought them, he wouldn't get any benefits except some ultra-quality spiritual stones and spiritual fruits. Should he fight them or not? That was the contradiction. For Han Fei, the hatred between humans and sea demons didn't matter. In fact, he didn't care about it at all. So what if they were humans? So what if they were sea demons? Besides, the bloodline of the mermaid clan shouldn't be low. Why should he care about it? At the beginning of the battle, Han Fei was already prepared. How should he recognize her? Appear out of thin air and step on colorful auspicious clouds? Punch the sea demon and take Xia Xiaochan away by force? Catch her off guard and give her a surprise? After all, they had just entered the Kinggrave land, and it covered a huge area. It was nearly 8 million kilometers wide, which was equivalent to the territory of the Yin-Yang Heaven. Therefore, it would take some time to find someone. However, although the place was large, this was the Kinggrave land after all. They didn't come here to play, but to hunt for treasures and opportunities, so there were only a few places they had to go. An hour later, Han Fei rushed to a dangerous canyon as fast as lightning. In this dangerous canyon, there was a gravitational force, and there were large knife marks on the cliff of the canyon. As soon as Han Fei entered, he felt the gravitational force. An overwhelming pressure came crashing down. This is just a 2-star dangerous place. It's just some residual aura. How dare you touch me? Han Fei grabbed the void and pulled out a knife. Han Fei grabbed this huge void crack in his hand and swept it across the cliff. The invincible knife intent directly collided with the original knife intent. As for the pressure above his head, Han Fei stepped on the seabed and punched the ground. In an instant, dust flew up, and the gravitational force in this space was instantly shattered by Han Fei. After Han Fei came to this dangerous place, he only attacked twice and destroyed the enemy's dangerous place. Before Han Fei, the land of the king-fallen grave had been opened countless times, but it hadn't collapsed. It could be seen how terrifying Han Fei's destructive power was now. The old turtle said, "You want to find someone? The king burial ground would only be open for a month. This is just the beginning. Most of them must be on their way." Han Fei nodded. "I was so happy that I forgot about it." Buzz, with a thought, Little Black and Little White appeared in the canyon. Han Fei said, "Daughter, do you still remember the taste of your mother?" Xiaobai rolled his eyes. "I remember. I can smell it." Han Fei was overjoyed. "Come on, take Dad there." But Xiaobai suddenly turned around. He only saw it quickly swim to a place 30 miles away. Dust was flying, and the ground was cracked by Han Fei's punch. Little White wandered around the crack, and then looked at Han Fei. "Row, row, there's something." Han Fei was slightly surprised. Something? He just casually hammered it. How could he get anything out of it? Han Fei immediately thought of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. This little digging expert was left in the Inyang sky. He wondered how strong it was now. The energy in the corpse breeding ground was extremely abundant. If the nine-tailed mantis shrimp didn't improve by 5 levels when he returned, he would kick them to death. At this moment, Han Fei waved his hand, and the infinity water turned into thousands of blades, directly starting the digging mode. Of course, it looked like a drilling machine, rotating downward. After digging for more than 20 miles, he finally dug out a dark stone. The demon purification pot didn't show any information, but the old turtle said, "This is a piece of black magnetic, which is used to refine sea-quelling bizarre treasures. However, it can only be used to refine low-quality sea-quelling bizarre treasures. It's a good thing here." Han Fei wondered, "Why do I feel that there's a special aura on it? Is there something wrong with this stone?" The old turtle pondered for a moment and said, "I'm afraid this is the key to the imperial palace they were talking about." Han Fei's eyelids twitched, and he said in astonishment, "Cough, cough, what's this?" "This brick is the key." The old turtle said, "If I'm not mistaken, the brick has only been stained with a trace of Tao, and the thing stained with this kind of Tao is the key. So, you felt something was wrong at first sight. This reminds me of one thing." Han Fei asked, "What is it?" The old tortoise said leisurely, "It seems that the true experts, such as the strongest emperor and venerable emperor experts, prefer to use black magnetic stones to build their palaces. The palaces built with them are a symbol of their status. Even kings can't break such palaces." Han Fei was stunned for a long time. "So you're telling me, I dug for a long time, only to dig out a brick to build a house in the imperial palace?" The old turtle nodded. "I'm afraid so." Han Fei was silent for a moment and waited. Such a brick-sized piece weighed at least 7 or 8,000 kilograms. Casually, Han Fei threw the black magnetic into Forge the Universe and muttered, "Emperors are really extravagant. If I dig an imperial palace, how many sea-quelling bizarre treasures will I dig out?" The old turtle, Han Fei, subconsciously made a key. At this time, he remembered that Xiaobai was an expert at treasure hunting. With Xiaobai, how could he not find the key to the imperial palace? Suddenly, in Han Fei's perception, a small team of 100 demons appeared. The reason why it was a miscellaneous army was that in this team of 3, there was a squid, a lobster, and a giant sailfish, all of whom were peak-level venerables. When he saw the 3 of them, Han Fei cursed, "I'm just looking for a wife. How could it be such a coincidence that I ran into her? Forget it. I'd better keep these 3 and set off later." Han Fei didn't realize that this was just the beginning, and everyone's starting point was the same. This place was close to the starting point. Wasn't it normal to be discovered? Han Fei concealed his breath and waited for a moment. Swish, swish, swish. 3 figures appeared in this canyon. When the 3 of them came here, the lobster said, "We're a step late. The dust here is still floating, which means that there were people here just now." The giant sailfish waved its tail and said, "Okay, it's just a 2-star dangerous place. Even if we dig, we may not dig out anything good. Poochie, the giant sailfish, was still talking. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in the air, so fast that he had no time to escape. In the next moment, his head was gone. Who is it? Run, the squid reacted quickly. Black ink instantly dyed the area within 100 kilometers. In the place covered by the black fog, venom was corroding Han Fei's body. Besides, this place was covered by the black fog, and he couldn't see anything. Even Han Fei's speed was much slower. However, at the moment when the squid ran away, Han Fei had already stabbed the big lobster into a skewer. He also released the void lines. Bam! The squid was shocked. He must be a half-king realm expert, a bit like a hunter of the human race. Although the characteristics of the 5 major professions were less and less obvious in the venerable realm, the main abilities of the hunters, such as their instincts of stealth, were still very strong. Who could resist such a sneak attack? The squid dashed through the black fog like a shuttle and appeared 100 kilometers away. He looked back. Seeing that the lobster didn't come out, he knew that the guy was probably doomed. However, just as it tore open the void and was about to escape, it saw a cold light instantly reflected in its eyes from the void. Chilla. After the squid was split into halves, he saw Han Fei slowly descending from the void, murmuring, "My arrival technique can ignore domains. It seems that this technique is much better than I thought." A moment later, when Han Fei walked out of the black fog with 2 blackened corpses, he thought to himself, what a shame that 2 delicious meals were poisoned. After swallowing the 3 sea demons at the peak level of the venerable realm for more than 10 minutes, Han Fei slowly swam to the depths of the king grave. Half an hour later, Han Fei still hadn't found Xia Xiaochan, but he saw a golden skeleton dragging a long knife and turning over bones in front of the skeleton. The one who died was a strong human expert. Han Fei had no impression of this person, but that person was strong and had a small half of the golden bones in his body. Han Fei was surprised to see this scene. A body cultivator was taken care of? Han Fei quickly approached, trying to see what this skeleton was. However, the skeleton suddenly turned around. Immediately afterward, the skeleton slashed at him with a swish, the bone knife in his hand still dripping with blood. Along with this slash, dozens of spatial cracks appeared in the void. Was I tricked? Han Fei was a little surprised. In his perception, he didn't perceive anyone else. At this time, a scarlet gate appeared out of thin air. Among them, a skinny young man sneered and charged out. Beside this man, there were 2 skeletons with half-golden bodies. Seeing this person, Han Fei immediately knew where he came from. The berserk corpse heaven of the 13 heavens of the outer domain. Here, there's also a black-robed man who could open a special space gate. Which family did he belong to? However, no matter which family he came from, that person was also a half-king. However, so what if he was a half-king? The moment these 2 dared to come to Han Fei, they were doomed to die. The 100 soul devourer broke out without warning, and Han Fei shouted in a low voice, "How dare a few skeletons come out to embarrass themselves?" BM, BM, BM. Han Fei's strength suddenly rose to an extremely strong level. After 3 consecutive punches, the 3 skeletons exploded with their knives and bones. Not good. The first reaction of the skinny young man and the black-robed man was to run. Damn, where did this immortal come from? The corpses of the peak-level venerable couldn't even resist 1 punch from him. Even his bones were smashed into pieces. This strength could be concluded that he was at least a half-king. But there shouldn't be such a strong half-king, right? Chapter 1756. It had always been Han Fei who ambushed others. Han Fei had rarely been ambushed by others. He didn't know what that Scarlet Gate was. It could completely conceal the aura of the user. Perhaps this thing could be studied. Seeing that the 2 of them were about to run, Han Fei certainly wouldn't let them get what they wanted. Han Fei immediately shouted, "Seal this place." As soon as the seal was activated, the blood-red mist collapsed in an instant. While the 2 of them were shocked, the skinny young man waved his hand and shook out the corpse of a strong master. This time, it was no longer a skeleton, but a real corpse. Information emerged in Han Fei's eyes. Name Blood Demon Introduction. It's made from the corpse of a half-king realm master, nourished by the blood pool and refined by the fire of evil energy for 800 days. The Blood Demon is extremely powerful, unconscious, and fearless. As long as there is enough chaotic chi, it can fight endlessly. Level 89, Quality, Ultra Quality, contains chaotic chi, 5 strands, effect, inettable, collectible, corpse, absorbable. Note, when the Drought Demon's power is exhausted, it will lose its effect. When Han Fei saw the information of the Blood Demon, he smiled disdainfully. No wonder the Berserk Corpse Heaven could only be in the outer domain. If the people of this immortal palace wanted to be strong, they needed a large number of corpses of strong masters. They also needed chaotic chi as a guide to control the corpses. But the corpses of strong masters and chaotic chi were not easy to get. If they couldn't intercept and kill the opponent, they would waste a lot of resources. At the moment when the Blood Demon attacked, Han Fei's fist flashed with red light, and he punched out the sacrificing punch. With one punch, the Blood Demon was blasted 100 kilometers away. Within 1,000 kilometers, the seawater had been surging, and the blade purgatory had been opened. Long dragons of saber chi rushed towards that person. Han Fei held the embroidery needle in his hand, grinned, and hit the man with the Monkey King 3,000 strikes. BM, 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 clang, 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 puff. In less than a second, the peak-level venerable of the Berserk Corpse Heaven was directly hammered to death by Han Fei, and the Blood Demon didn't even have time to save him. A wisp of his soul tried to sneak into the corpse, but it was caught by Han Fei's void lines. The other black-robed man's expression changed drastically. How could he have expected to encounter such a tough opponent? Logically speaking, so long as they didn't encounter more than 2 half-king realm experts, then they wouldn't lose at all. Therefore, they had to hunt from the beginning because they had no intention of fighting for it themselves. Their idea was the same as Han Fei's. They would just grab the fruits of other people's labor. Although no one had found the key to the Arch Palace in the beginning, they couldn't give up just because they met someone who knew that on their second hunt, they would run into a tough nut to crack. Who are you? Han Fei's rod shadows were like waves, overlapping. The black-robed man suddenly lifted his black robe, which turned into boundless death chi. From within the aura of death, a gigantic undead creature made up of countless skeletons emerged. Undying creature, are you from the mysterious underworld sky? At this time, Han Fei didn't hide anymore and fully unleashed his power. On the embroidery needle, golden light shone brightly, and the rod was as heavy as a river and unparalleled. The moment the 100-meter-tall skeletal giant came into contact with the rod shadows, its entire body started to crack. Crack, crack, crack. In the blink of an eye, the summoning technique of the mysterious underworld sky collapsed. In Han Fei's eyes, he saw a young man solemnly making a gesture with his hands. Death Tide. The boundless death chi was gathering. Han Fei was already in the death chi, so he was quickly wrapped up. However, Han Fei directly activated the ancient desolate war body. The death chi entered his body and was instantly purified and expelled. So the strong man from the mysterious underworld sky saw a figure getting closer and closer in the boundless death chi. Impossible. You don't cultivate the death chi. How can you not be affected? When Han Fei walked out of the death chi, a spear shadow pierced through the strong man from the mysterious underworld sky. Then the void lines caught him. Han Fei said leisurely, "Do you want to know?" "I won't tell you." After killing the 2 of them, Han Fei took out 2 sun moon shells from them. As for the corpses, Han Fei didn't bother to collect them. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Han Fei said, "Daughter, let's chase. We must catch up with your mama today." Little White grunted and began to swim faster. However, Little White hadn't become a venerable yet, so its speed was still limited. According to the direction Little White was heading, Han Fei checked the map and eliminated the dangerous areas below 5-star. In this direction, there was a 5-star dangerous place. Besides, Not far from this dangerous place, it could even be said that in the adjacent place there's also a dangerous place. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Xia Xiaochan's identity was not ordinary. She appeared on the big ship of the Mermaid King, so there should be a strong guard behind her. She definitely wouldn't be interested in ordinary, dangerous places. So, Han Fei put away Little Black and Little White and rushed away at full speed. The danger of the land of King Death was not that there were special creatures here. What was dangerous here was these dangerous places. After tens of thousands of years of exploration, most of the dangerous places had been flattened and hollowed out. There were only so many of them left. There were only a few places that were truly dangerous. And the dangerous places that hadn't been cleaned up until now could only mean that they were so dangerous that no one had been able to clean them up for tens of thousands of years. Han Fei could almost conclude that, except for the dangers encountered in the 5-star dangerous places and dangerous places, for peak-level venerables or half-kings, there was almost no chance of death here. The real deaths were mostly caused by the killing and hunting of the various races. After a moment, Han Fei landed at the entrance of an underwater karst cave on the cliff of an abyss. At this time, after Han Fei released Little White immediately said, "Rake, it's dangerous. But Mama seems to be inside." Han Fei grinned. "That's right. Today, even if it's a mountain of daggers or a sea of fire, we'll have a try." Putting away Little Black and Little White again, Han Fei stepped into it without hesitation. Undersea karst caves, also known as undersea caves, were usually full of mysteriousness and mysteriousness. In the past, such places would definitely attract many brave adventurers to explore. As soon as Han Fei entered, he saw a green light. In his field of vision, there were stalactites and towering stone forests crawling with green seaweed everywhere. Swish, swish, swish. When Han Fei approached the cave, he saw shadows of swords appearing one after another around him. Those sword shadows, without hitting anyone, turned into weird lines of runes and sank into the nearby stalactites. The old turtle said, "It's a killing array." Han Fei nodded. "I see. I'm just curious. We are not the first to come here, but there seems to be no trace of damage here. Logically speaking, such a killing formation would definitely destroy the environment inside the cave." Just as Han Fei asked this question, a white current jumped out from the depths of the karst cave. Han Fei dodged sideways, only to see this thing explode with a bang, turning into flying catkins all over the sky, as if trying to contaminate Han Fei. A series of arrays appeared under Han Fei's feet, and the Great Plate Turtle Array instantly rose from the ground. Clang, 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 clang. A massive amount of rune sword intent bombarded the Great Plate Turtle Array in an instant. Han Fei shouted in a low voice, "Fuse." As soon as they fused, Han Fei immediately saw the mystery. Why was there a stalactite forest around? It was a land of broken walls and ruins, and the ground and broken stone pillars were covered with all kinds of green glowing worms. Shoot! Han Fei didn't feel good at all. He fell into an illusion as soon as he came in. If he hadn't felt something wrong, those worms would have crawled all over his body. And the so-called runic sword chi was actually the attack launched by the insects after they had swallowed the sword will. Han Fei stretched out his hand, and the infinity water turned into finger-long knives. In an instant, they turned into tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, spinning rapidly in this space. Han Fei stood in the storm of knives and walked all the way forward. Wherever it went, everything, no matter what kind of mess it was twisted into fine powder. After walking more than 10 kilometers into the karst cave, as many as 7 or 8 caves leading to different directions appeared here. Han Fei released his perception, but as soon as he did so, he immediately felt a great numbness. Han Fei said, "The worms here can actually devour perception and hurt the soul." With that, Han Fei hooked out with the void lines. In the blink of an eye, a neon green worm was caught in front of him. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Named Tao-devouring demon worm, introduction, an extremely rare ancient worm that can devour the great Tao and imitate the power of the great Tao. The Tao-devouring demon worm has an extremely strong reproductive ability. As long as the great Tao exists, the worm will never die. Level 83, Quality, Ancient Mutant, contains Sword Intent, 1 Wisp, Edible Effect, Inedible, Collectible, Uncollectible, Absorbable. Remarks, the Tao-devouring demon worm can imitate the power of any great Tao. Hiss, Han Fei couldn't help but gasp after reading it. It was the first time he had seen an ancient mutant worm. More importantly, this worm could imitate the power of any great Tao. Its reproduction speed was so fast that it could be called indestructible. Just how strong was this thing? The old turtle was also surprised. This seems to be an ancient demonic worm, right? Let me tell you, there are few good ancient demonic worms. When there are too many of them, sometimes even the emperors have to avoid them. Han Fei stood on the spot and sensed for a while. With Little White's keen perception, he finally chose a cave and crawled in. Han Fei said, "Then I should be glad that I'm not in the ancient times." Chapter 1757. The danger of a 5-star danger zone was no joke. Countless Tao-devouring demon insects. Only the heavens knew how they managed to grow their strength. But in any case, this place was filled with a lot of sword chi. Because these Tao-devouring demon insects contained wisps of sword chi in their bodies, which could only mean that the great way of sword existed in this cave itself was very strong. When Han Fei walked less than 50 kilometers from his second cave, a large stalactite forest appeared here. It was no longer an illusion. However, some dark green liquid was always coming out of the sharp tips of these stalactites. And after Han Fei just arrived at this stalactite forest, the 6 spirit armor outside his body was melting almost at a speed visible to the naked eye. It could be seen that the surrounding seawater was full of extremely terrifying corrosiveness. With Han Fei's current strength, no one in the same realm dared to say that they could shatter any array he set up with one blow. However, under the corrosion of the seawater, it couldn't resist at all. Han Fei directly covered his body with a spiritual energy protective cover. This kind of continuous corrosion, of course, had to be accompanied by a continuous defense. For venerables, a spiritual energy protective cover could last for a long time. Therefore, this kind of corrosive solution couldn't hurt Han Fei at all. Not long after walking for about 100 kilometers, Han Fei suddenly discovered that there were traces of a battle here. This battle caused a large area of the nearby cave to collapse, which actually blocked the way. Han Fei sensed for a while and said solemnly, "There's a very strong knife chi that swept through this place. There's also a terrifying fist energy and sword chi. It seems that there's been a big battle here." The old turtle said, "At least a battle of more than 10 people." Han Fei frowned slightly. Han Fei naturally knew that the various clans and forces had sent a lot of half-king realm powerhouses here. He had calculated the purpose of these half-king realm powerhouses with ice snow before. Their purpose was at least a 5-star danger zone. However, there were a total of 12 5-star danger zones. However, only the 36 Xiantian realms had come, and 25 forces had come. Even if there were only 2 forces on average in a danger zone, there were now 3 forces in this danger zone, including Xia Xiaochan and the others. If there were the 100 Demons clan and the Seabed Human clan among these forces, they could even make up the 5 major forces. Han Fei's heart sank. If Xia Xiaochan and the others encountered the 100 Demons clan or the Undersea Humans, it would be fine. However, if they encountered human experts, a great battle would inevitably break out. The infinity water swirled like a storm and began to dig a passage in a pile of rocks. However, after digging, Han Fei realized that these stones were not ordinary seabed rocks. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. If these were normal sea rocks, this so-called 5-star danger zone would have collapsed long ago. It would have been impossible for it to last until now. As far as Han Fei was concerned, the strength of the stones here had reached the point where they could be used to refine high-quality divine weapons or even ultra-quality divine weapons. No wonder it can withstand the vibration of a half-monarch realm expert. The rock itself might not be able to withstand the attack of a half-monarch realm expert. However, it was a mountain, an earth vein, and a cave. Only the heavens knew how thick the outer walls of this cave were. Even if a half-martial monarch could destroy a portion of the mountain, it would be impossible for him to destroy the entire mountain. While digging with the infinity water, Han Fei was collecting these stones and speeding up the excavation. While Han Fei was digging in the depths of the cave, in a small city that looked like an underground palace, an earth-shattering battle broke out. The two sides of the battle were a team of 5 led by Xia Xiaochan and a team of 10 human experts. However, upon closer inspection, all 10 of them were wearing the same clothes. Besides, these 10 people were all in the half-monarch realm at this moment. Swish, 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 Xia Xiaochan was flashing and weaving. In the underground palace, the shadowless blade was flashing and attacking, and shadows were flowing. There were 3 half-monarch realm experts surrounding Xia Xiaochan. Clang, clang, clang. Clang, clang, clang. Xia Xiaochan didn't retreat at all, just because the other party had more people. As soon as she entered the land of the King Grave, she was targeted. To think that this group of people could actually find him directly. Obviously, the other party's target was her from the beginning. At this time, Xia Xiaochan roughly knew who wanted her dead. Therefore, she was extremely angry at this moment, and her pair of daggers moved faster and faster. However, among the people surrounding her, one focused on the Tao of Speed, one focused on the Tao of Soul Attack, and one focused on the Tao of Gravity. If it weren't for Xia Xiaochan's unreasonable infinite flash ability and the Shadow Shrimp Shadow power, she would have been defeated at this moment. However, even if she could hold on now, it didn't mean that Xia Xiaochan could win. If she only faced one of them, she could exhaust him to death. It was more likely that she would kill him. However, the Tao of these 3 people was clearly targeting her. Fundamentally, they were suppressing her to attack. In order to chop off the head of one of them. Xia Xiaochan was crushed by the Tao of Gravity. In an instant, her body became unstable and she was about to flash away. But the extremely fast half-monarch realm expert slapped her in the back. Puff, swish, swish, swish. In the underground palace, more than 30 figures of Xia Xiaochan suddenly appeared. This was to buy time to hide her real body. Xia Xiaochan squatted on the ground and appeared 3,000 meters away. Next door, Bai Muling roared, "How dare you hurt her Royal Highness? Today I'll make you die." The one named Bai Muling roared, and with a buzz, he turned into a white-scaled dragon python. With a swing of his giant tail, he sent a half-monarch realm expert flying. But at this moment, a human overlord sneered. "Bai Muling of the mermaid royal family, I've been waiting for you to transform." Swish! A human clan powerhouse sneered and threw out a seal in his hand. The next moment, the true dragon aura burst out. Puff! Bai Muling spat out a mouthful of blood and said in shock, "You're from the dragon, taming heaven?" "No, the azure dragon might of the dragon, taming heaven isn't so strong. This is bloodline suppression, and it's the dragon might of the sea opening realm." Bai Muling was injured in one move, and the other person next to him was also impacted by the dragon might. But that person wasn't as strong as Bai Muling. The 2 half-monarch realm overlords attacked with 2 demon spikes that contained a strange power. One of the 2 spikes killed the body, and the other killed the soul. The half-monarch realm sea monster was killed in an instant. Sita Yuhong yelled, "No, they're not from the 36 profound heavens. Princess, don't worry about us. Run." Those who protected Xia Xiaochan all knew one thing. In a corner of this world, there was an extremely powerful family that wanted Xia Xiaochan's life. That was why Xia Xiaochan had been forced to cultivate in the mermaid royal family until now. Only by becoming stronger and stronger could he resist the pursuit of those people. But how come there were forces outside the 36 profound heavens in this trip to the land of King Burial? It could only mean one thing. The 36 profound heavens had been infiltrated. Xia Xiaochan had figured it out a long time ago. So, the moment Bai Muling was defeated, she shouted, "Fuse!" Roar! At the same time, there was a dragon roar. This time, Xia Xiaochan's strength soared a lot in an instant. The people who were hunting Xia Xiaochan all changed their expressions at this moment. Someone shouted in a low voice, "It's the giant arowana and the Tao sound talisman." Dong, dong, dong. Xia Xiaochan's strength had already been improved to the half-monarch realm. However, these people were clearly prepared. As soon as they attacked, earth-shaking bell tolls burst out from the three fish skins. Pooh! Xia Xiaochan vomited another mouthful of blood. Her reaction was very fast. The shadowless blades scattered in the sky in the blink of an eye. There seemed to be a shadow on each shadowless blade. Clatter when the shadow gathered again. Everyone saw a pair of beautiful half-colored transparent cicada wings behind Xia Xiaochan. By Muling and Situ Yuhong both exclaimed, "Heavenly cicada transformation." But at this moment, Xia Xiaochan's eyes turned red. On her shoulder, a big starfish was shivering. Starfish know that we can't come out. If we come out, we'll be in danger. If we come out, we'll die. Shut up. Xia Xiaochan spat, and her strength soared several times again. With a swish, a melodious color was left in the sky. The cicada wings swept across the sky, leaving no trace. Immediately afterward, Xia Xiaochan's feet stepped on a person's chest. The two knives entered his body and instantly destroyed his body. With a twist of the cicada wings, this person was immediately beheaded. However, the person who was killed was not afraid at all. A lot of green light suddenly burst out of his body. When they took a closer look, they saw a massive tide of swords bursting out of this person's body. In an instant, Xia Xiaochan was blown back. The heavenly cicada wings were riddled with scars. In the next moment, three people attacked Xia Xiaochan again. But suddenly, a scream of fear rang out. 6 gates, heaven's ceiling. Hum, 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 a purple light rose. Master Hexagon's starfish finally played a role. The 6-gate formation protected Xia Xiaochan in it. City Yuhong and Bai Muling were being attacked crazily. The two of them were already riddled with scars. This time, the enemy had obviously calculated the strength of the people around Xia Xiaochan. At this moment, in the 6-gate formation, Xia Xiaochan was riddled with scars and looked at the people outside with hatred. One of them stood in midair and said indifferently, "After all, you haven't become a king and haven't fully inherited the power of the heavenly cicada. The 10 of us have hidden swords in our bodies, waiting for you to display the heavenly cicada transformation, so that you know that the power of the heavenly cicada can't be passed on to outsiders. Today you will die." First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1758. The strength of the mermaids and mermaids was only relative. Xia Xiaochan was indeed strong. A peak-level venerable fought against 3 half-king realm experts for a long time and even killed one of them in the end. If these people were just ordinary half-king realm experts, Xia Xiaochan would have a way to escape. With Bai Muling and City Yuhong as her bodyguards, it wouldn't be difficult for her to escape. But the point was that these people weren't ordinary half-king realm experts. Every one of them had a hidden sword. Almost all of their methods were targeted. They seemed to have anticipated what Xia Xiaochan would do and how she would react. Now, Bai Muling, City Yuhong, and another mermaid half-king realm expert were all entangled. On Xia Xiaochan's side, the 4 of them were bombarding the 6-gate array. One of them sneered, "It's a waste of time. Although the 6-gate array is strong, the Hexagon Starfish's realm isn't high enough. This array will be broken in 10 seconds. The Hexagon Starfish rolled its big eyes and murmured, "It's over. It's over. It's over." I knew the outside world was dangerous. I knew it when I was only a few years old. Xia Xiaochan snapped, "Shut up." "No, I won't shut up. There's still hope." The Hexagon Starfish yelled, "By Muling, City Yuhong, you two are useless. You keep saying how unparalleled you are, but are you really that unparalleled? You can't even defeat 5 of them? Why don't you just kill yourselves?" City Yuhong bellowed. The void around him was twisted, and black pearls cracked like black holes. Dumb, 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 chaotic energy burst out of Situ Yuhong's body, and his combat ability soared. His will fused with his body and covered himself with a layer of white armor. However, the people opposite them were obviously not to be trifled with. since they had gone through so much trouble to sneak into the land of death. How could they be unprepared? 3 human cultivators wielded long spears and thrust out 3 spears at the same time. In midair, a triangle was drawn. As soon as the triangle appeared, a triangular mark burst out, blowing Situ Yuhong back dozens of kilometers. His hair was disheveled, and his armor was broken. Pooh! Situ Yuhong's expression was unsightly as he said, "Something is wrong. These people's methods are not the methods of the 36 profound heavens. They are not from the chaotic azure sea." By Muling cursed, "Impossible. There was no way out of the chaotic vast sea. If they could come from the outside, they would have come a long time ago. Why wait for this opportunity?" Although the 2 geniuses were severely injured, they had not reached their limits yet. Both of them took out a jade scroll at the same time. By Muling shouted, "Bastards, you forced us to use the king's strike. You didn't come here for nothing." "Kacha! Kacha!" When By Muling and Situ Yuhong crushed their jade slips, a crab phantom image appeared. After the crab image appeared, its eyes turned cold, and it said, "So many human half-step kings?" Clang! The crab hit the gong, and the demonic sound reverberated. However, the human on the other side also unleashed an overlord strike. A gigantic hand appeared out of thin air and grabbed at the crab's illusory figure with brute force, crushing it into pieces. In Situ Yuhong's jade slip, a person appeared. The man was none other than Chun Huangdian, whom Han Fei had met before. Chun Huangdian glanced at the situation and roared, "By Muling, Situ Yuhong, and that starfish, take the princess away." Someone on the human side roared, "Humph! No one could leave this place even if they wanted to. The unfilial son of the infamily will die even if we chase him to the end of the world." Those people's methods were beyond Xia Xiaochan's imagination. Apart from the trump cards that By Muling and Situ Yuhong had, Xia Xiaochan had one last trump card, but it seemed that it couldn't help her escape at all. Chun Huangdian's attack was completely resisted by one of the half-step kings. Of course, the half-step king who resisted the attack was immediately shattered, and a tide of swords burst out of his body and charged at Chun Huangdian. Chun Huangdian pointed his finger and destroyed the overwhelming tide of swords. His shadow was almost transparent. At this moment, a person appeared in midair like an illusion. It was the silhouette of a human sitting on a throne, exuding a majestic aura. The man raised his hand and pressed down, and Chun Huangdian's illusion almost collapsed. The man bellowed, "Vile creature, die already." The man opened his mouth and roared. Not only was Chun Huangdian's illusion destroyed, but even the hexagon starfish's 6-gate array collapsed. The hexagon starfish shrieked, "Throw out your trump card and run." Xia Xiaochan flapped her wings and was about to crush the jade slip in her hand. On the other side, someone was charging at her aggressively with a spear. The tip of the spear carried a dazzling golden light. All of a sudden, the void was twisted. A ray of saber light illuminated the void and directly shone on the face and body of the person who had attacked. "Pucci, watch out!" The human experts all took a defensive stance, looking for the enemy. The body of the person who had just attacked Xia Xiaochan fell apart. Everybody was shocked. Who was it? It was such a fast and powerful attack. Could it be that someone had secretly used the king's strike? Bam! A lot of rubble was blown away, and a fatty appeared at the entrance of the underground palace. This fatty was exactly Fan Datong, who Han Fei disguised as the Black Ghost. Everybody looked at the newcomer. At that moment, Xia Xiaochan's eyes widened. The hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes looked in the same direction, dumbfounded. Only By Muling, Situ Yuhong, and another merman half-king were dumbfounded. The 3 of them wondered, "Who is this newcomer? Who are you?" The human expert saw that it was a human being and immediately said, "We're all human beings. Did you help the wrong person?" Hee, turtle shell sealing technique. At that moment, the surroundings seemed to be sealed. The old turtle sealed this place, and Han Fei didn't intend to let go of any of them. Han Fei said unhurriedly, "Are you blind? How dare you bully my wife?" By Muling was dumbfounded and looked around. There seemed to be no other woman here except for the princess. Sita Yuhong was also stunned for a moment, and then his face changed drastically. How dare you? Princess Mingzhu, you're so arrogant. Don't talk nonsense. The hexagon starfish was shocked, and its 6 tentacles were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Hey. Han, shut up. Han Fei glared at him. Big starfish, if you say one more word, I'll eat you. The hexagon starfish quickly shut up, but its eyes kept rolling, and it clawed at Xia Xiaochan's clothes desperately. The shock in Xia Xiaochan's eyes hadn't faded yet. At that moment, she felt as if a fishbone was stuck in her throat, and tears flashed in her eyes. However, the human experts uttered a roar. Stick your nose in someone else's business, and you'll die. However, he saw 3 people using the same trick again. Another triangular rune appeared in midair and pressed at Han Fei. Xia Xiaochan hurriedly exclaimed, "Watch out!" However, Han Fei clenched his fist and punched out with the sacrificing punch. The power of this blow directly blasted the triangular seal into pieces. What? How is it possible? Then a long stick stabbed out with domineering spear power. Almost ignoring time, the spear directly stabbed a half-king stage cultivator into pieces. His body was smashed into pieces, and his body exploded all over the sky. Swish, swish, swish. At that moment, Han Fei reached out and scooped in the air. The infinity water condensed into a knife and slashed at another person again. However, this time, these people realized what was going on. One of them turned into a phantom and a throne descended. In the blur, there seemed to be a middle-aged man slapping at Han Fei. Humph, what's that? You want to suppress me with a phantom? Do you think I'm too arrogant? Boom! Han Fei punched at him. With a bang, Han Fei hit the rock wall and smashed half of the underground palace. Xia Xiaochan's face changed drastically, and she suddenly stood up. However, before she could make a move, she saw a figure rushing back at an even faster speed from the ruins. Behind him, thousands of knives were like dragons, roaring and pouncing on him like a primeval beast. Huh! The 100-beast soul devouring roar burst out, and 2 of them spurted blood from their eyes, ears, noses, and mouths. Han Fei performed a star shift, appeared directly behind one of them, and tore him in half with his hands. Han Fei was full of killing intent. Is that all you've got? We're your king's means. Use them all at once. Gulp! Bai Muling and Sita Yuhong looked at each other and swallowed. Damn, who is this guy? Is he a hidden bodyguard sent by Lord Chun Huangdian? This strength was a little too terrifying. These half-king stage cultivators were not ordinary half-king stage cultivators. They seemed to have endless king's means in their hands. Otherwise, if these people were just a little bit more ordinary, how could they have been defeated with the addition of Her Highness the Princess, who were all real super experts? But now, the man in front of them was only at the peak level of the venerable realm, but his strength was so terrifying that he could take a blow from a half-king stage cultivator head-on without being hurt. And he could even fight back in the next second? What kind of beast is he? Just now, they had only managed to kill 2 people after putting in so much effort. However, as soon as this fatty came, he killed 3 people in the blink of an eye. Yes, these 3 people were definitely dead. If they hadn't died, they should have been reborn by now. Unfortunately, they didn't. This meant that they didn't have a chance to be reborn by blood at all. In the blink of an eye, Han Fei strangled him with the infinity water, but it was also defeated by the opponent's king strike. However, the infinity water turned into waves and dissipated. Han Fei now had the combat power of a king stage cultivator. Fist marks were all over the sky, and knife chi was everywhere. In an instant, another person was caught by Han Fei and immediately cut into pieces. The other person blew himself up the moment he was caught by Han Fei. Rumble, Han Fei was blown away again. Although the power of a half-king stage cultivator's self-explosion was also terrifying, it only crushed the surface of the underground palace and blasted Han Fei a few hundred kilometers away. However, Han Fei returned in the blink of an eye with the world's end close. The hexagon starfish rolled its big eyes and said, "Oh, my family is trustworthy, but the others are not so good. They're all useless. They're not even as good as starfish." Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1759. Within 10 minutes, Han Fei made a record that even Xia Xiaochan was stunned. Of the remaining 8 demi-kings, only one was left, and Han Fei's strength could no longer be maintained at the king level, so he finally returned to normal. Seeing this scene, Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong both heaved a long sigh of relief. This person really used some kind of secret method. Otherwise, if he really exerted such a powerful force, they would have begun to doubt their identity as heavenly talents. Xia Xiaochan gritted her teeth and joined the battlefield. However, how could Han Fei let Xia Xiaochan fight when she was injured? During the battle, Han Fei enveloped Xia Xiaochan with the holy light technique. Xia Xiaochan's injuries were recovering at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. Just now, they were fighting and didn't have a chance to fight. Now, there was only one half-king left, so he had to help Xia Xiaochan heal. The hexagon starfish said, "Starfish, I'm also injured. I vomited blood just now." Han Fei rolled his eyes. The hexagon starfish used to be quite thin, but now his tentacles were fat and swollen. How good were their lives then? How could he raise a starfish into such a shape? As a matter of fact, Han Fei didn't even attack the last person. He just restrained the half-king. But Xia Xiaochan simply burst out and slashed 1,027 times in a breath. Her attack speed was so fast that Han Fei almost didn't see it. The final half-monarch's battle armor had been shattered into pieces. Knowing that he couldn't escape, this person roared, "So what if you kill us? You can't escape after all." Han Fei frowned and said, "Girl, let me do it." After all, they grew up together, so although they hadn't seen each other for a long time, they still called each other affectionately. The word girl made Xia Xiaochan blush. Then she pouted and tears welled up in her eyes. But at this moment, Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong both shouted, "Your Highness, leave this person to us." However, Han Fei's void lines had already locked onto this person. Han Fei turned around and saw Mu Baimu and Situ Yuhong charging at him. He casually punched them. "Get lost. Troublemakers will die." Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong were both speechless. What did he mean by making trouble? Our strength is extraordinary. However, the two of them still consciously did not attack again. After all, Han Fei's powerful combat power just now did make them a little flustered. That was 7.5 martial kings. Including the last one, that was 8.5 martial kings. If the strength of these quasi-monarchs was only ordinary, then it was understandable that Han Fei was able to kill them. However, these people's strength exceeded the strength of ordinary quasi-monarchs, and they even had many king-tier attacks. It was obvious that they had come prepared. In this case, Han Fei killed them all. This could no longer be described as powerful. He was simply a freak. With such strength, he could even fight against kings for a short period of time. They clearly understood that the two of them were no match for each other. Han Fei glanced at Xia Xiaochan. "Give me a moment, At this moment, the soul-searching art was activated. Han Fei quickly learned that these people turn out to be from the investiture of God's heaven. As soon as the 3 words, investiture of God's heaven, came out, Han Fei was surprised. The investiture of God's heaven was originally one of the 7 enemies of the yin-yang heaven, one of the 13 heavens in the inner domain. In the past, it was said that there were gods among them. However, after learning about the history of the 36 black heavens, Han Fei was sure that this was impossible. A venerable emperor could stop the 36 black heavens for 100,000 years. Gods? Were these people suffering from hysteria? What Han Fei didn't understand was why the people of the investiture of God's heaven wanted to kill Xia Xiaochan. After a while, Han Fei's face changed. That was because he saw some secrets. When Han Fei quickly read the memories in this person's mind, he felt terrible. After reading it, Han Fei found that the 36 Xuantians were not united. Han Fei was silent and directly cut off this person's vitality and destroyed his soul. Bai Muling and Sita Yuhong's hearts skipped a beat when they saw Han Fei slaughtering a half-king without even blinking. This was definitely a ruthless person. He slaughtered a half-king and was still calm. It was as if he had just done a trivial thing. Just how murderous was this guy? At this moment, Xia Xiaochan was also surprised, happy, shocked, and thinking. What on earth had Han Fei experienced? How could he grow so fast in just a few decades? The yin-yang heaven had disappeared for 80,000 years. How did Han Fei find it? At this time, Xia Xiaochan had too many questions in her heart to ask. Wasn't Han Fei the same? Seeing that the hexagon starfish's claws were twitching, Han Fei glanced coldly at Bai Muling, Situ Yuhong, and another merman. Han Fei said, "Can we kill these three?" Hiss, the three of them retreated quickly, and their hair stood on end. What? Does this person still want to kill us? Xia Xiaochan pulled Han Fei and said, "Forget it. There were a few people who died to protect me. Although these people are not pleasant, we don't need to kill them." Xia Xiaochan said, "By Muling, Situ Yuhong, you don't need to follow me to the place where the king died. You can find the key by yourself." Situ Yuhong was about to speak when Han Fei said leisurely, "Forget it. Just because I let you go doesn't mean you can slaughter humans at will. If I find out that you attack any of the clans except the Grand Pure Palace, the Wuji Palace, the Golden Crow Palace, the Five Elements Palace, the Dream Weaving Palace, the God Sealing Palace, the Medicine King Palace, and the Wild Corpse Palace, I'll kill you the next time I see you." Situ Yuhong, Bai Muling, Xia Xiaochan. Bai Muling was speechless. "Why don't you kill all the 36 immortal palaces? Do you mean that we can kill these 8 clans at will? Just how much hatred and resentment did they have? Do you want us to be your thugs? Kill the experts of these immortal palaces?" Xia Xiaochan thought to herself, "It seems that these clans have offended Han Fei too much." Based on her understanding of Han Fei, how could she not know that he would seek revenge for the smallest grievance? Xia Xiaochan glared at the three of them. "Did you hear that? Let's do that. Don't let go of any of them." Han Fei couldn't help but tilt his head and glance at Xia Xiaochan, thinking, "My wife is so reliable." Bai Muling was lost for words. "Wait, your highness. Who? Who is he?" Xia Xiaochan glanced at Han Fei and answered with a blush, "My husband. This is my husband. Go back and tell Chun Huangdian that he can forget about his schemes." Even Han Fei looked at Xia Xiaochan in surprise. How could she call him husband so casually? There must be a lot of people in the mermaid royal family who proposed marriage to Chun Huangdian. Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong were both heavenly talents who were princes of their families. Their purpose of protecting Xia Xiaochan was not pure. Looking at it now, he thought, "Damn it, I've clearly lost." More importantly, they seemed to have lost to a fatty, which was a huge blow to their self-esteem. The two of them looked at each other speechlessly. Does the princess like fatty types? But this guy isn't handsome at all. Could it be that her royal highness liked ugly men? The two of them were full of questions. Although there were thousands of dissatisfaction in his heart, this fatty's strength was simply too strong. Of course, if this fatty's strength was on the same level as theirs, they would definitely stay. They would even try to kill this fatty. But they didn't even have time to think about how to kill this fatty. This fatty actually asked if they should kill the three of them. It could be seen that this fatty's killing intent was too strong, and it was best to leave now. In this place where the king died, the strongest people who could appear were probably the group just now. Now, this fatty seemed to be quite worried about the princess. Thinking about it, at least her highness's safety should be guaranteed. The few of them reluctantly retreated. A moment later, when they had just left this dangerous place, they heard Bai Muling say, "What do we do? I really can't get over this anger in my heart. That fatty, how could he do that?" Situ Yuhong said, "Are you stupid? Think about it carefully. Where did this fatty come from among all the people in the 36 profound heavens? Although we basically don't know each other, we have at least met once. This person must have used some method to hide his true identity. Otherwise, think about it. Once he is exposed, it will be a secret relationship between a human and a mermaid. How could he not know the seriousness of this matter?" Bai Muling couldn't help nodding. That makes sense. Given how strong this fatty was, He must not be a nameless person. Then, if he really exists, we can definitely find him after we get out. If we can't find him, then he must have hidden his true identity. Situ Yuhong sneered. At least, the 8 families of the Taiching and Wuji are definitely not the place where that fatty lives. Besides, this fatty must have great enmity with these families. Otherwise, why would a human ask us to help him kill a human? Bai Muling sneered. So what? The internal strife of the human race has always been endless. Just look at the 13 inner and 13 outer heavens, and you'll know. In the past 80,000 years, the number of immortal palaces that have disappeared has already reached 10. Maybe if we wait any longer, they will torture themselves to death. Situ Yuhong sneered. Idiot, when the imperial palace opens in 32 years, there will definitely be a big reshuffle. He wasn't a fool. Why would he torment himself until he was gone? Forget it. Let's not talk about this. I'm still worried about Her Highness. If that fatty does something to Her Highness, what should we do? Bai Muling said with a dark face. It shouldn't be possible, right? The other merman half-kings said, Princes, this is a big taboo. Her Highness will have to leave the land of repose in a month. She can't disappear into thin air. When the time comes, as long as we tell Lord Azure Dragon about this, Her Highness will very likely be grounded. Once Her Highness is grounded, she will also be cut off from humans. No matter how strong this person is, can he kill his way to the merman royalty? Hiss, both of them glanced at the half-king of the merfolk and sucked in a breath of cold air. Good idea. The third watch. Xia Xiaochan is finally back, isn't she? Shouldn't you leave your monthly ticket to me? Mwah. End of this chapter. Chapter 1760. As soon as Han Fei entered the king graveyard, he only wasted a little time and caught up with them. Therefore, even if he encountered some obstacles on the way, he didn't waste much time. Although the major forces, such as the 36 mysterious heavens and the mermaids, had sent half-king realm experts, 2 groups of people had already come to this dangerous place. Even if the third group of people came, they would probably encounter Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong. Although Han Fei had threatened to kill them, these people had blocked a lot of enemies for Xia Xiaochan after all, so they had made great contributions. At this moment, the underground city was already in a mess, and many places had collapsed. After all, the battle here had exceeded the normal intensity of the battle between half-king realm experts. A king's power had appeared here just now. Shortly after Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong left, Xia Xiaochan suddenly jumped on a Han Fei. Wah, I almost died just now. I thought I would never be able to see you again. For Xia Xiaochan, she had no family in the world except for Han Fei and the others. Moreover, she had thought that there were only a few of them, and they were all at the ends of the earth. Although her identity and status in the mermaids were extremely high, there were also many rules. In addition to cultivation, there was also experience. Xia Xiaochan hung on Han Fei, her head on Han Fei's shoulder, and sobbed. I checked all the historical materials and learned that the place where we were before was called the Yin-Yang Heaven. But I couldn't find anything in the chaotic ocean. There was no Yin-Yang Heaven at all. It was said that it disappeared as early as 80,000 years ago. I thought I would never see you again, sob. Before she finished her sentence, Xia Xiaochan choked and cried, complaining. They forced me to cultivate every day, didn't give me food, didn't let me go out, and found a lot of door guards to watch over me. In addition to cultivation, I searched through historical materials. It wasn't until I became a supremacy that I found out that the yin-yang sky might be in the savage abyss. Sob. I ran more than 80 times, and there was one time when I almost made it. Sob. Xia Xiaochan cried her heart out. It had been 20 years since she left. Apart from cultivating, it was either flipping through historical records or running away. No one will be able to do that. Han Fei had done a lot of things in the past 20 years. Go to the Thousand-Star City, break into the 3 Holy Lands, escape the Waterwood Heaven, sneak into the White Shell Royal City, conquer the Thousand-Star City, and go to the cage. Han Fei thought about it carefully and found that he had a rich experience. Everything he saw was novel. But Xia Xiaochan was really miserable this time. Han Fei didn't even know how she could cultivate so fast. Although the spiritual energy energy, and resources of the chaotic, vast ocean's inner sea were much better than the yin-yang skies. It shouldn't have grown this fast, right? Moreover, judging from Xia Xiaochan's attack just now, it was clear that even a demi-monarch was no match for her. However, she was only at the peak of the Venerable One. It could be seen that Xia Xiaochan's talent was no worse than his. However, it made sense. The bloodline of the mermaid royal family must be of a high level. In the past, Xia Xiaochan was prone to attacks because of her bloodline. After being provoked by Yang Ying, he couldn't help but awaken. Besides, Xia Xiaochan was even weirder than him. She had 3 spiritual beasts, namely, 3 associated spirits. There was a shadow shrimp, a giant arowana, and a heavenly cicada. Han Fei was holding Xia Xiaochan now, so he could see it clearly. Behind Xia Xiaochan, the colorful cicada wings were so thin that they had almost no thickness, but they were extremely sharp. This sharpness was undoubtedly comparable to that of an ultra-quality divine weapon. Seeing that Xia Xiaochan's injuries hadn't fully recovered, Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Good girl, come down first. I'll heal you." "I don't." Unexpectedly, Xia Xiaochan was so determined. She said, "Are you the same as last time? Did you come here with that human holy weapon? Do you still have to go back after using it?" "I won't come down. When I come down, you run away." It was the first time that Han Fei had seen Xia Xiaochan act like a spoiled child. He couldn't help but laugh. "Why would I run away? Last time it was an accident. This time, I'm really here. Touch me. I'm solid. I'm very sturdy. If I could come here in other ways, wouldn't I have come a long time ago? Can I let you wait for more than 20 years? Xia Xiaochan shook her head. "No, I don't want to hear it. If you want to heal me, just do it this way." The big starfish said, "I'll heal you. I'll heal you." Starfish is also injured. Starfish needs healing. Only then did Han Fei notice the hexagon starfish. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Name: hexagon starfish, excess energy. Introduction: a mysterious creature. The hexagon starfish, extremely rare. It treasures as much as its life. Because it searches for treasures everywhere, it is called a moving treasure. Its 6 horns can emit strange beams of light, and 6 void gates will appear. If you enter any of them, you may get a chance or die. Be careful. Level 85, quality, mysterious, great path, divine shield, contains chaotic energy greater than 462 strands, edible effect. There's a certain chance to obtain a defensive inheritance, collectible, 6 small worlds, absorbable. Note, the comprehensive energy of this hexagon starfish is extremely high. If it doesn't make a breakthrough, its life potential will be damaged. Because the hexagon starfish was not his contractual spiritual beast, Han Fei couldn't see what combat skills it had. However, after seeing the information of the hexagon starfish, the corners of Han Fei's mouth couldn't help trembling. F***CK. This is definitely the one with the most chaotic energy among all the experts below the king level that I've seen in the chaotic ocean. F***CK. It's just an intermediate peak level venerable, but it has saved me 462 strands of chaotic energy. Only the heavens knew how this fellow survived. This thing, could it be that it drank chaos chi every day to pass its days? Also, what is excess energy? If it doesn't make a breakthrough, its life potential will be damaged. How many good things did he eat to develop this kind of behavior? When he thought of how hard he had been working outside and how he barely slept for so many years, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. He only cared about enjoying it every day. Han Fei felt angry no matter how he looked at it. Han Fei grabbed the hexagon starfish from Xia Xiaochan's shoulder and threw it to the ground. "Look, how fat are you? You are now a worm at the bottom of the sea, a round ball fish. How can you be hurt?" With that, Han Fei kicked the hexagon starfish away, thinking, are the conditions of the mermaids so good? Lying on a collapsed stone at the bottom of the sea, he muttered, "Actually, it's not as bad as she said. Starfish thinks it's good. There's food, drinks, and a clam girl's massage. Chilla." Hundreds of shadowless blades swept at the hexagon starfish like lightning. Xia Xiaochan attacked without hesitation. The hexagon starfish let out a strange cry, and a barrier appeared around its body, blocking so many shadowless blades. Xia Xiaochan's attacks were at least at the advanced venerable realm, but they were so easily blocked by Mr. Hexagon Starfish. This surprised Han Fei. It seemed that this guy is going to make a breakthrough. After the breakthrough, it should be very useful. Han Fei said, Xia Xiaochan, I'm already here. If you cry again, I'm going to tell Zhang Xuanyu and the others. Xia Xiaochan immediately tightened her grip. Don't say it. If you say it, I won't forgive you. Where are they? Are they here too? Han Fei couldn't help but laugh. Do you think this place is so easy to come to? I only managed to come to this place after a narrow escape from death. Hearing this, Xia Xiaochan's heart suddenly tightened, and she freed a hand to pinch Han Fei. Are you hurt? Han Fei was speechless. I'm hurt. How can I let you pinch me? However, he didn't have time to think so much. Han Fei struggled to raise his hands. The apocalyptic divine technique descended, and Xia Xiaochan's wings, which were as thin as glass mirrors, were being repaired step by step. The small hole that couldn't be repaired by the holy light technique was also recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, the wound disappeared without a trace. Xia Xiaochan had never seen an apocalyptic divine technique before. Her whole body went limp under the light, and she unconsciously floated in the air. The 6 big eyes of the hexagon starfish began to roll quickly. Its figure flashed, and it quietly appeared in the light beam of the apocalyptic divine technique. The hexagon starfish, like a piece of plasticine, lay softly on the stone under Han Fei's feet, and its 6 big eyes were so comfortable that they were blurred. Han Fei kicked it again, directly kicking it dozens of kilometers away, and snorted. Master Hexagon, if you can't break through to the advanced venerable realm within a month, believe it or not, I will skin you alive. The hexagon starfish screamed. No, it's so difficult to break through. It's not something starfish can do at all. These years, starfish have suffered enough of the pain of breaking through. Han Fei couldn't bear it anymore. He stretched out his hand, and a space crack appeared in the void, and he slashed at the hexagon starfish. The hexagon starfish screamed again. An invisible shield wall blocked in front of him. Han Fei's slash shattered the shield wall, but it was not damaged at all. However, before Han Fei finished his harsh words, he sneered. I feel that you have a lot of chaotic energy on you. Since you don't want to make a breakthrough, it's a waste to keep this chaotic energy on you. Why don't you take the initiative to pull down a few tentacles and fry them? They will be a great tonic. The hexagon starfish only felt that his tentacles were cold. How can a human be so terrifying? He even wants to fry my tentacles? But thinking of how Han Fei killed a half-king powerhouse and resisted a king's blow, the hexagon starfish was scared and hummed. Okay, then I'll make a breakthrough. Chapter 1761. Han Fei slightly frowned. He didn't know it until he activated the Apocalypse Divine Technique. He discovered that Xia Xiaochan still had a stubborn disease in her body after activating the Apocalypse Divine Technique. It seemed that she had been seriously injured before, so when the Heavenly Awakening Divine Technique broke out, she felt so comfortable, as if she were immersed in a hot spring. After the brilliance of the Apocalypse Divine Technique disappeared, Xia Xiaochan grabbed Han Fei's arm the moment she landed. What kind of healing technique was that? Is a spirit gatherer's healing technique so powerful? Han Fei, on the other hand, frowned and asked back, what happened to your internal injuries? Didn't you say that you've been cultivating all day for the past 20 years? How could you have such a serious injury? Huh? Really? The hexagon starfish said, I know. 8 years ago, you sneaked out and ended up being targeted by someone. You were almost killed by that person with a single blow. Fortunately, the fierce king came, or we would have been dead. Han Fei was confused. The fierce king? Xia Xiaochan said in disgust. That's Chen Huangdian. He yells at me every day. Sooner or later, I'll beat the crap out of him. Han Fei thought to himself, it seems that, after learning Xia Xiaochan's identity, he didn't respect her at all. It's only natural that he would yell at her. As for the people who attacked Xia Xiaochan when she snuck out, they must be in cahoots with these people today. Han Fei said, Chun Huangdian must be beaten. That old B asterisk starred killed me once. I won't be able to forgive myself if I don't avenge him. However, our top priority is to kill another group of people first. Xia Xiaochan asked. Who? Han Fei said coldly. Everyone from the investiture heaven must die. The king of the investiture heaven may have become someone else's puppet. The people who hunted you this time are all from the investiture heaven. These people were all peak-level venerables before they came in, but they all became half-kings after they came in. They must have hidden their strength with some kind of great technique. We've only met 10 people so far. If I remember correctly, there should be 28 of them. Xia Xiaochan was shocked. The investiture heaven? The people who want to kill me are from the investiture heaven? Han Fei nodded. I saw from that man's memory that the king of the gods' investiture heaven issued a kill order in person. They're not here to look for the key at all. They're here to hunt you down and kill you. Hiss, Master Hexagon Starfish's 6 big eyes rolled. Then what should I do? Only 10 people have died. Doesn't that mean there are close to 20.5 monarchs? Even Xia Xiaochan was stunned. All the experts of the Godbane heaven were here to kill him. Could it be that the dignified immortal palace was also controlled by that person? Han Fei was shocked too. If it was a hunting order from the king himself, what was Xia Xiaochan's real identity? There was a reason why so many experts wanted to kill her, right? However, the current environment was clearly not suitable for telling stories. Han Fei stepped on the ground, and the phantoms of mountains and rivers appeared. Han Fei said, "Don't resist. Let's go to another small world." After a while, when Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish came to the sea-quelling painting, Xia Xiaochan said in surprise, "Is this floating island?" The hexagon starfish exclaimed, The spiritual energy here is so thin. It's uncomfortable." With a thought from Han Fei, the hexagon starfish disappeared. But in the sky, the sound lingered. Han Fei's voice sounded leisurely. "Master Hexagon Starfish, I'm not joking with you. If you don't make a breakthrough within a month, I'll help you make a breakthrough myself." "No, the starfish doesn't want to practice." Xia Xiaochan blushed slightly. "Actually, the big starfish has been doing well these years." Han Fei didn't believe her. "He's been overnourished." "Not bad. It's just that his life is too comfortable. Someone has to exercise his muscles and bones." The floating island in the sea-quelling painting was no longer the one that was blown out of shape during the war. Now, after many years of reproduction, it was beautiful and lush, but Han Fei usually didn't come here. When the noise of the starfish was gone, the two came to the land with fresh air from the turbulent bottom of the sea. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan finally looked at each other, and they could have a good chat. However, how could they talk in this situation? Just now, the battle was urgent, and both of them were still worried. Now they were relaxed. Han Fei saw Xia Xiaochan's eyelashes trembling slightly, her cheeks blushing, and he could hear Xia Xiaochan's heartbeat. When Xia Xiaochan was a child, she was born with the ability of charm. Now that she was so big, her charm was much stronger than when she was a child. At this time, Han Fei also changed from Fan Datong to his original appearance. His own heart was also beating wildly, and his throat was a little dry. As the saying went, the heavenly thunder touched the earthly fire. They hadn't seen each other for many years, and the two had been longing for each other for a long time. How could they hold back? Han Fei hugged Xia Xiaochan's waist, and their lips and teeth entwined. His long-cherished wish of many years had been fulfilled, and Xia Xiaochan was no longer the little girl who didn't know anything. Han Fei had taught her a lot in the past. Now at this time, the strength of the peak-level venerable had long been forgotten. His clothes were torn, and the seasons changed. Heaven and earth were his seats, and the clouds and rain were tumbling half a day later. Han Fei lay on the grass with his arms spread wide. Xia Xiaochan lay beside him, holding her chin with her hands, gently patting the grass with her calves and feet, and looked at Han Fei with her head tilted. At this moment, Han Fei was talking with fervor and assurance. At that time, it was really a critical moment. I blocked the king alone. What could I do? Behind me were the 4 major races and billions of creatures. I had to block them even if I couldn't. Fortunately, I learned the time art from the Chu sect. In the end, I could fight against the king. Han Fei was bragging about his glorious deeds. From Xia Xiaochan's departure until he snatched the sea-quelling painting, passed the explorer stage, became a venerable, and became a half-king, of course, Han Fei didn't say everything in detail. For example, Han Fei didn't mention the part about the ideal palace. He only mentioned that after entering the ideal palace, there was no memory. There were also some secrets, such as the demon purification pot, which Han Fei naturally didn't mention. The most important thing was that Han Fei hadn't figured it out yet. Xia Xiaochan listened with relish on the side. Sometimes she was nervous, sometimes she was cheerful, and sometimes she didn't even dare to breathe. As she listened, she couldn't help but burst into tears and lay on Han Fei's body several times. Of course, she knew that no matter how simple Han Fei's description was, it was very difficult at that time. What kind of law enforcer attacked a venerable? That was something only a lunatic would do. He was forced to hide his identity for many years. With Han Fei's character, how forced must he be? Why did he choose to compromise like this? He defeated so many venerables in the Thousand-Star City alone. That was even more shocking. What was the density of spiritual energy in the Yin-Yang heaven? She knew very well. She also knew that even Xue Shenqi, the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island, was just an explorer. Han Fei had even confronted the Tao of Time head-on and killed him. Not to mention that Han Fei fought against a real king as a half-king. If it were anyone else, they would have been dead. Xia Xiaochan had never heard of a venerable who could fight a half-king, even in the mermaid royal family. So, the more relaxed Han Fei was, the more she knew how hard it was. Han Fei tilted his head and said, "What about you? Who is it that wants to kill you? Why was your identity exposed when the heavenly cicada was born?" Xia Xiaochan heaved a long sigh. Chen Huangdian said that it was my father who wanted to kill me because I awakened the heavenly cicada, which revealed their bloodline. It seems that those people attach great importance to bloodlines. Because of this, my mother fought a great battle with the experts of their clan and is still in a deep sleep to this day. As she spoke, there was anger in Xia Xiaochan's eyes. If one day in the future, when I open the sea and the sky, I will sweep the infamily to the ground. I will make the heavenly cicada bloodline that they are so proud of disappear from the sea. Han Fei frowned. And family? You even know the surname of their family? Where did you learn it? Xia Xiaochan shook her head. Chen Huangdian said that. He said that the infamily's forces are still outside the chaotic ocean. However, they can already infiltrate the chaotic ocean. This, Han Fei couldn't help but sit up. They're still outside the chaotic ocean? Isn't it said that the chaotic ocean can only be crossed from the east? If someone can come in, wouldn't he be able to kill his way to the mermaid royal family if he's strong enough? Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but shake her head. No, there's a conclusion about this in the family. It seems that they can only come in a certain way, but they can't come here directly. These people are from the investiture of God's heaven, but the investiture of God's heaven is one of the 36 mysterious heavens. By logic, it shouldn't be in contact with the outside world. So, they may have influenced the investiture of God's heaven in some way. Han Fei's heart sank. He thought that the 36 mysterious heavens were already strong enough. There were a lot of kings here, and the martial emperor city could even suppress the chaotic ocean. Han Fei didn't believe that there weren't any emperors here. Now, as far as he knew from Xia Xiaochan, they were outside the chaotic ocean. They even knew the existence of the chaotic ocean. But since they knew the existence of the chaotic ocean, they couldn't come in? Could it be that the 36 mysterious heavens was also a super-secret realm equivalent to the Savage Abyss? However, if that was the case, then this doll game was too powerful, wasn't it? How large was the area? Han Fei couldn't help but think of what his mother said. I want to integrate the 36 mysterious heavens and rule this chaotic ocean. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. Even if I really rule this place in the end, I'm afraid there will still be greater crises waiting for me. Chapter 1762. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan hadn't seen each other for years and had a lot to talk about. After Han Fei finished, Xia Xiaochan told him how she was abused. She couldn't eat any food or seasoning. She was thrown into the abyss to fight against behemoths, and she was thrown into the mist to survive alone. In fact, the happiest days of his life were when Chun Huangdian threw him to the pirate crew and fought against the pirates of other families. Han Fei asked in surprise, "You've been to a pirate group? Do you mean the mermaid pirates?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. Yes, the mermaid pirates were sent out by the mermaid capital city to collect information. After all, the Martial Emperor City is the safest place in the chaotic ocean. The Martial Emperor City is the safest place in the chaotic ocean, apart from the main bases of the major forces. Xia Xiaochan said with mixed feelings, "It was exactly because I stayed in the mermaid pirates that my sister sent me a message, saying that there was a new force outside of the top 10 pirate groups, named the Avengers, whose captain is Han Fei." As she spoke, Xia Xiaochan put her arms around Han Fei's neck without any scruples. "I thought it was you, and I wanted to find you. But Chun Huangdian, that be Astra-starred, said that if I ran away again, he would lock me up for 100 years after I was caught." "Asshole," Han Fei snorted. "I'm definitely going to beat that old man up. He's too much. My wife is a princess, and she has to be bullied by him. Who is he?" Seeing that Han Fei was really angry, Xia Xiaochan quickly said, "Well, we can't go to him until we're both in the sea expansion realm. Chun Huangdian is too strong. I've seen him fight a new king. In the end, that newly advanced monarch wasn't even able to withstand one move and was directly defeated." Han Fei couldn't help but gasp. "Wait, isn't he a king too? Is there such a big difference between a king and a king?" At this moment, the old turtle said, "Of course, there's also an insurmountable gap between regular kings and the strongest kings. If the White Armor Emperor's combat power is 10, then the ones you met in the outer sea are mostly around 20. For example, the one from the Wuji heavens is at least 50. Han Fei asked, "You don't have anything specific? Let me ask you, what is the strongest combat power of the sea expansion realm?" The old turtle leisurely said, "If you only use the power you're familiar with to measure it, this emperor's strongest power back then was 400,000 waves. However, there shouldn't be many who can surpass me." Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. 50,000 waves were enough to make him an ordinary king. What did 400,000 waves mean? In a direct confrontation, the old turtle estimated that he could squash a White Armor Emperor to death with one finger. Xia Xiaochan didn't know that Han Fei was talking to the old turtle. She thought that Han Fei was surprised by Chun Huangdian's combat ability. She said, "Also, I suspect that Chun Huangdian isn't a king at all." Han Fei immediately raised his eyebrows. "Not a king? What do you mean?" Xia Xiaochan said, "It's just my feeling." Even though he was ranked 3rd among the Merfolk royal clan's sea expansion realm. However, there was one time when I used the metamorphosis water to form a pillar, and I saw that even heaven creation stage experts were extremely humble towards it. It was also at that time that he discovered the secret of my metamorphosis water. From then on, he never ran away again. Han Fei asked, "Are there still heaven creation stage experts in your Merfolk royal clan?" Xia Xiaochan said, "Of course. Otherwise, how could they resist the 36 black heavens?" Han Fei was deep in thought. Xia Xiaochan's question really had to be considered. In the first place, the strength of sea expansion monarchs varied. Even if he had just reached the sea expansion realm, it was impossible for him to be so powerful. Even with the enhancement of the Great Path, he might only be able to stand firm in this realm. After all, the old turtle said that when he was in the sea expansion realm, his power was only 80,000 waves. Even if he was on par with the old turtle and had the enhancement of the Great Path, he still couldn't reach the peak of the sea expansion realm. Therefore, he still had a long way to go. He had to put aside the matter of beating Chun Huangdian. He had to find a way to become a king first. Xia Xiaochan said, "I can't go back now. You have a small world, and I can wait for you to leave the land of King's Grave in the small world. Let's run." At that time, they would be able to leap freely in the vast sea and fly freely in the vast sky. He won't be able to catch us. Thinking that she could finally leave the royal family of mermaids, Xia Xiaochan burst into laughter and gave Han Fei a big slap on the mouth. In the sea-quelling painting, they spent 3 days together. The two of them didn't look like they were here to explore treasures, but more like they were here for a honeymoon. Han Fei estimated that it had already been 3 days. There should be some progress in the exploration of the various dangerous places. Those half-kings and peak-level venerables must have been killed by now. Han Fei said, "Girl, it's time to go out. Since the land of King's Grave will be open for a full month, we still have to settle accounts. After exploring this dangerous place, we can't let those guys from the investiture of God's heaven go out alive. Okay, kill them all." In the Nine Sounds array, when Han Fei came to find the hexagon starfish, he found that it was lying on the ground and sleeping soundly. Its 6 big eyes were all narrowed. Of course, it was impossible for a peak-level intermediate venerable not to know that Han Fei and the others were here. The hexagon starfish said, "This starfish has passed this tribulation." Han Fei raised his eyelids. In the past 3 days, he hadn't felt that the Nine Sounds maze had been touched. Therefore, this big starfish was not afraid of the Nine Sounds maze at all. This fellow didn't have any emotions at all. The supreme emotion for getting sound was even more bullish *T to it. However, if there was lazy in the Nine Sounds, the big starfish would definitely be devastated. Unfortunately, there was no such sound at all. Han Fei said grumpily, "Okay, let's go out." Hearing this, the hexagon starfish hurriedly said, "I think it's good here. This training is just right for me. I can still stay here." Xia Xiaochan moved her fingers and a dagger was stabbed at it. However, the hexagon starfish was prepared and an invisible big shield appeared on its body. Xia Xiaochan sneered, "Big starfish, I'll skin you if you talk nonsense again." The mountains and rivers swayed, and 2 people and 1 starfish appeared in the ruins of the outside world again. Han Fei asked, "What is this place again?" Xia Xiaochan said, "This is the city of the dead." A senior who has been here said that this is a place where the living and the dead live together. According to the historical materials, if we want to talk about the city of the dead, we have to talk about the place where the king died. Han Fei couldn't help but say, "You look like Luo Xiao by now. You know everything. The exit is the historical materials." Smack! Xia Xiaochan slapped Han Fei's arm. "I'm looking for the yin-yang heaven. So, I've basically read all the historical materials that could be read. Don't interrupt." Han Fei shrugged, and Xia Xiaochan said, "The place where the king died was originally a small world that the masters of the 36 immortal palaces snatched from the imperial palace." When Xia Xiaochan only said the first sentence, she heard Han Fei exclaim, "Such a big small world?" Xia Xiaochan waved her hand and said, "No, it's not that big. A real small world is not very big. It may not even be the size of a city. Weren't the other places created during the War of the Kings? The reason was because of the uneven distribution of booty. At that time, the group of kings all became kings through the imperial palace. Therefore, their strength was equal, and no one was much better than the other. However, they had powerful treasures in their hands, so a chaotic battle ensued. The small world that they had seized was torn apart, and several monarchs even self-destructed. The 3 perilous lands on the map were undoubtedly the places where the monarchs fell. Han Fei asked, "What about here?" Xia Xiaochan explained, "This city of the dead is said to have been guarded here by a strong master at that time, fighting against all the enemies. In the end, he sacrificed his soul and obtained great power. Here, he slaughtered many strong masters. Later on, he himself also fell, leaving behind this place. However, the kings who didn't die later were all strong, and they should have come here again later. However, a lot of treasures were scattered in the place where the king died, and no one wanted to let their opponents take them. In the end, they came to a consensus, that is, let the venerable realm masters explore it. In this way, the treasures will belong to whoever has the ability. Only in this way can the war between the major forces be avoided." Han Fei thought, the bloodshed in the martial world is often caused by treasures. Xia Xiaochan said, "This city of the dead is very weird. At that time, that person sacrificed his soul. It is said that he eventually became a zombie. I don't know if it's true or not. Throughout history, many strong masters who came to the place where the king died in this city of the dead. Han Fei was speechless. If you knew it was so dangerous, why did you still come? Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but pout. But I also want to break through to the peak level of the venerable realm. I need a big battle and an opportunity to break through to the half-king level. Once I reach the advanced level of the half-king level, I can quickly accumulate the strength of the half-king level. Han Fei asked in surprise, "How can you quickly accumulate the strength?" Xia Xiaochan grinned and pulled Han Fei's arm. "When I was in the Mermaid King's city, I secretly stuffed a lot of good things into the big starfish's door. I stuffed all kinds of resources that I could get into it. When the time comes, we just need to eat resources. Let's eat together later." Han Fei finally understood. Why was the hexagon starfish so fat? Why did the hexagon starfish grow so fast? Why was the chaotic chi in its body so rich? It turned out that it was all because of Xia Xiaochan's food. With the hexagon starfish's character, how could it not eat secretly? Seeing that Han Fei's eyes fell on it, the hexagon starfish grunted from Xia Xiaochan's shoulder to Xia Xiaochan's calf, feeling creepy. It thought, "I just ate a little bit." Chapter 1763. According to Xia Xiaochan's description, this city of the dead should be the place where a king died in battle. As for sacrificing one's soul, the more Han Fei listened to this, the more he felt it was a fantasy. He always felt that sacrifices were usually not good things. The sacrifice in the steps into the sea could basically be equivalent to a summoning ritual to summon the corresponding creature. The sacrificial technique invented by Yu Wendao was to summon the human body. The king of the city of the dead had probably been pushed too far back then and was in desperate need of power. That was the reason why he would do something like offering sacrifices. Han Fei said, "Doesn't this mean the king's corpse may still be in the dangerous place?" Xia Xiaochan said, "I'm not sure. I brought a lot of treasures this time, including the king's strike. I just want to see if the king's corpse in the city of the dead is still there. If it's still there, I can rob him of his treasures, and this trip to the place where the king died will be a success." Han Fei said, "It's been tens of thousands of years. Maybe it has already been taken away. No one dares to go to the desperate place, but don't you dare to break into the city of the dead? I don't think we should have too much hope. However, we can look for the key to the imperial palace." With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up and she said in surprise, "Is this Little White? Had they become so beautiful?" Little Black and Little White had high IQs now and could speak. When Little White saw Xia Xiaochan, he also rubbed his head against her. "Mommy, cash red envelope. You can get cash when you read books. Follow the WeChat public account. Cash/coins are waiting for you." Xia Xiaochan blushed and gave Han Fei a reproachful look. "Nonsense. Little White can speak now. Where is Little Black?" Xia Xiaochan had known that there was an invisible black fish in Han Fei's hands. So, after she kissed Xiao by a little, she immediately looked around, but she did not see anything. "Mom," it wasn't until Little Black bumped Xia Xiaochan's shoulder with its head that she discovered, to her shock, that she had to sense this space with her perception in order to vaguely sense that there was a pure, invisible space in this space. She couldn't even see the black. It was as if something that didn't exist existed beside her. Han Fei touched Little White's head and said, "Daughter, look here. Is the stone you found still here?" With that said, Han Fei took out the black yuan magnetic force. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "You found a key?" Han Fei shrugged. "I picked it up by accident. If he's lucky, there's nothing I can do." At this moment, the hexagon starfish crawled over and said quickly, "This is not a good thing." It said that the Imperial Palace has a slim chance of survival, and only 1 out of 10 people can return. Han Fei rolled his eyes at the hexagon starfish. "You have to work hard to break through. We definitely have to go to the Imperial Palace. We're not afraid. Becoming a demi-king is practically a done deal. However, you're only at the peak of the intermediate venerable one. When you get there, even a bug can kill you." "That's terrible. The hexagon starfish raised his claws and covered his eyes, as if he couldn't imagine what would happen to him after he went there. The hexagon starfish thought, no, Han Fei is still too fierce. This guy used to be fierce, and now that he's so strong, he's even fiercer. This time, if Xia Xiaochan met him, she definitely wouldn't go back to the mermaid royal family. Then, thinking of Han Fei's fearless character, he knew he had to go to the imperial palace. No, I can't die. I have to make a breakthrough. I have to break through to the venerable realm as soon as possible. Speaking of which, this underground palace was already dilapidated. After being bombarded by Han Fei and the others, it had almost been crushed into a wasteland. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan followed Little White and walked hand in hand. Soon, they found a tower-shaped building that had not been completely destroyed in this broken wall. Han Fei was very sensitive to arrays. Soon, Han Fei discovered that these stones were engraved with some Taoist patterns. Yes, the once extremely rare Taoist patterns. Han Fei saw them again. As soon as he saw the lines, Han Fei knew that each Taoist pattern was an array. Although there were not many lines on the tower-shaped stone, there were more than 20 of them that were crooked. This meant that this formation was made up of more than 20 formations. Under normal circumstances, who would look for a big stone that had fallen to the ground in the ruins? Even if someone rummaged through the ruins, it was still a problem whether he could recognize the Taoist patterns or not. Even if he did, the Taoist patterns were not so easy to crack. Han Fei didn't learn the record of myriad Tao patterns for nothing. Han Fei's fingers swished in the air and drew more than 20 times in a row. His soul power roared and shook, and Xia Xiaochan was surprised. Han Fei has become so powerful now. He can draw this kind of thing that I've never seen before. When the void formation and the formation on the rock merged, a blue spiral ripple shone brightly. Han Fei grabbed Xia Xiaochan, and the two of them twisted and disappeared into the ruins in the next moment. Swish, swish, when Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan appeared in a humid space, Han Fei knew that he had opened another small world. This was a small town. The layout of the town was open, and there were no unusually tall buildings here. From the looks of it, it looked like a village or something. The roads here extended in all directions. Although most of them had collapsed, and there were big pits in many places, there were always some roads that were still intact. The two of them released their perception almost at the same time. To their surprise, this place didn't hinder the exploration of perception. Therefore, the two of them soon found that something was wrong. In this small world with a total area of less than 800 kilometers, there was a graveyard full of corpses. Swish, 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 two round wheels, making a ferocious trembling sound, rushed over. Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei turned their heads at the same time. Han Fei grabbed the void and grabbed the round wheel. Xia Xiaochan disappeared directly. On a road 100 kilometers away from Han Fei, there was a corpse standing up shakily. Of course, at this moment, Xia Xiaochan had already slashed it 17 or 18 times. Each slash was like a thread of light and shadow flashing past. When Xia Xiaochan stopped, the corpse had been broken into pieces, and its body had been cut into 50 or 60 pieces. Han Fei clasped the round wheel, shattered the blood on the round wheel, and slashed back at the graveyard with his saber. On the way, another corpse that had just climbed up tried to block, but was directly cut in half by the round wheel. Han Fei stepped into the void and came directly to Xia Xiaochan. At this moment, both of them frowned, because the corpse that had been cut into 50 or 60 pieces by Xia Xiaochan could actually be reassembled. Its body was reassembling. Master Hexagon screamed, "What the hell is this? It can't be killed. Han Fei, pinch it to death, pinch it to death." But Han Fei didn't move at all and just said indifferently, "This corpse should have been in the venerable realm before it died. Now, it has actually decayed, but I don't know what power has resurrected it." In Han Fei's heart, the old turtle said, "They're undead creatures." Han Fei was stunned and quickly responded, "Don't undead creatures still have reason and memory? These are clearly dead people. How did they become undead creatures?" The old turtle said, "Some people become undead creatures through normal means. They specialize in this way and try to achieve immortality in this way. However, some people don't. After they die, part of their souls are forcibly sucked away and become a part of someone else's power. And the remaining corpses, because part of their souls are sucked away, become this half-dead state. Of course, in this state, as long as the supply of death energy to the remnant souls is cut off, they can be killed. Han Fei glanced at this corpse and saw a layer of blue shimmer on it. Then he looked at its eyes, and there was a little soul fire jumping. "Ho!" Han Fei roared in a low voice, and the 100 soul devouring roar directly destroyed the last remnant soul on the corpse. The body of the half-assembled corpse crumbled. This time it could no longer stand up. Xia Xiaochan also figured out the way to kill this kind of corpse after seeing it. However, the two of them looked at the cemetery hundreds of kilometers away and saw a man in armor, holding a long sword, exuding a monstrous death energy. Far away, Han Fei heard a voice echoing in the air. "Let's die together, let's die together," Xia Xiaochan said in shock. "Is that the corpse of King?" Swish, the man appeared in front of Han Fei in an instant. The sword in his hand, with boundless death energy, had already fallen from the sky. Clang, Han Fei was also a veteran of hundreds of battles. At the moment when the man attacked, Han Fei's embroidery needle had already appeared in his hand, and with a blow, he jumped into the sky. Bam! Under this blow, Han Fei retreated more than 1,000 meters, which made him take a long breath. Fortunately, this king died as soon as he became a king. His current strength was no better than that of an ordinary king. He was even weaker than the White Armor Emperor. Han Fei said, "Girl." Little Black and Little White rushed out. How could Xia Xiaochan not understand what Han Fei meant? Han Fei could resist a king, and Xia Xiaochan had just learned this combat power. Now, since Han Fei still had the strength, he would let her deal with the remaining corpses and look for treasures. However, when Xia Xiaochan rushed over, she found that the number of corpses here was beyond her imagination. There were as many as 1,000. Swish, 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 puff, puff, puff. Xia Xiaochan, like a nimble elf in the forest, tossed and moved among the countless corpses at an extremely fast speed. Every time the light of the dagger flashed, a few corpses would be cut down. At this moment, what Xia Xiaochan felt was not danger, but excitement, and her blood was boiling. After more than 20 years, the two teamed up again, and they were as sharp as before. Chapter 1764. After all, this walking corpse used to be a pioneer sea realm monarch. Even though his body had decayed, his strength wasn't much weaker. This person even instinctively displayed the sword essence of the heavens. After a single blow, Han Fei and this person were on par with each other. This person casually stabbed out a terrifying sword chi comparable to Han Fei's draw technique. Not to be outdone, Han Fei activated the invincible golden body and fused the great path with it. This blow blasted out, but this person was only blasted back more than 10 kilometers. However, Han Fei didn't seem very happy because he used the invincible great path, and this person just casually stabbed out. That sword strike was completely natural and extremely casual, yet it seemed to contain a myriad of profundities. Even though this person was dead, his swordsmanship had been integrated into his body and became his instinctive reaction. Doubt or a Han Fei had fought with a king before. When fighting with other kings, their power of great path seemed to be used on themselves. For example, power, defense, seal, etc. However, Han Fei had never fought with a sword cultivator before. Han Fei had never thought that the Dao aura would be so strong when it fell on a sword cultivator. Yes, when a sea expansion sword cultivator raised their hand and threw their sword, just a casual swing of their sword seemed to contain endless transformations. For example, the sword just now seemed ordinary, but he couldn't dodge it. Of course, Han Fei didn't want to boost the morale of others. Before Han Fei's body landed on the ground, he had already rushed out. This time, he used the road of the invincible realm to fight with the opponent's swordsmanship. Clang, bam, after another impact, Han Fei held the embroidery needle against the corpse and pushed it 100 kilometers away on the ground. The terrifying explosion ripples rolled over and had already caught up with Xia Xiaochan and the others. The hexagon starfish exclaimed, "That's terrifying. A king is really too terrifying. If it falls on a starfish, it will be gone." Xia Xiaochan's body was like a phantom, occasionally flickering and drawing shadows. The blade swept past, leaving behind a pile of broken corpses. She said, "Then find a way to become a king. The days of eating and drinking for free every day are over." Starfish bitter, "Hey, there's something shining over there. It must be a treasure. Let's go get it." In the end, the hexagon starfish still couldn't resist the temptation of treasures, especially the shiny ones. Han Fei also noticed that the glowing thing seemed to be where the king of swordsmen was sleeping. It flickered with green light, and indeed looked like a treasure. Ding, ding, ding. Han Fei had already felt the power of a sword cultivator. He had a new idea in his mind. He had always used the power of Tao to enhance his strength. But what if he changed the way he used it? For example, the great Tao of heavenly enlightenment was used for healing. The great Tao of time naturally used the laws of the great Tao of time to fight. On the road to invincibility, Han Fei walked on a state of mind that could give him endless, invincible momentum. The great Tao of gravity was also the application of a specific great Tao. However, what would happen if the battle skills that he was most proficient in, such as the saber, became a type of path? The sword had its own path, and the saber had its own path. Han Fei didn't like to use weapons like swords, but he was very good at using knives. Han Fei decided that if there was a chance in the future, he would have to give it a try. If he could create a knife path that belonged to him, his every move would be full of knife intent. With a casual slash, he could lock onto the enemy's trace and be unstoppable. At this moment, Han Fei didn't intend to fight with this king's corpse for too long. After all, the other party had already died, and now it was just a body. Otherwise, the battle with him wouldn't be so simple. Even Han Fei didn't dare to challenge him like this. When Xia Xiaochan's shadow clasped the big green glowing cocoon, Han Fei retreated quickly and said lightly, "Explode." As early as when Han Fei was fighting with the king's corpse, the infinity water had already drilled into the king's body. After all, the other party was only a corpse and had no consciousness. Therefore, the other party didn't force out the infinity water. At this point, the infinity water could be said to be scattered in every part of the king's corpse. At the moment when Han Fei said, "Explode," Han Fei quickly said via voice transmission, "Six-gate formation." Master Hexagon's reaction speed was very fast. Since Han Fei stepped aside, he had to open the array. Otherwise, nothing good would come out of it. Sure enough, as soon as the purple light formation was opened, a super explosive energy like a mushroom cloud swept across the entire small world. The infinity water was an important treasure of a city, and it could grow with the strength of the user. At this moment, although Han Fei hadn't become a king yet, he was not far from the weakest king. The power of the infinity water was naturally extraordinary. After all, this king was just a beginner king, and his strength wasn't exaggerated. Besides, because he was a sword cultivator, not a body cultivator, in terms of physique, this person should be much weaker than Han Fei. Therefore, the explosion directly blew him into pieces. Within 800 kilometers, the town was crushed to the ground, and many corpses were directly blown into pieces. Han Fei seemed to be used to the impact of this kind of explosion, and he walked in the explosion. As he walked towards Xia Xiaochan step by step, many corpses that were not killed by the explosion still wanted to pounce on him. However, Han Fei casually pulled out his knife and chopped the corpse into pieces. Seeing this scene, the hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes kept rolling. He knew that Han Fei was a ruthless person, but he didn't expect that he was even more ruthless now. It seemed that he would have to suffer in the future. Of course, in Xia Xiaochan's eyes, it was different. Xia Xiaochan was quite excited. The moment Han Fei appeared here, she knew that Han Fei was the most powerful. He could come to this place step by step in a resource-poor place like the Yin-Yang Heaven. How many difficulties had he gone through? After all, she was no longer a child now. At that time, she was secretly in love with him. Now it seemed that she was looking at her man. Han Fei stretched out his hand and waved, and the infinity water gathered. In this explosion, Han Fei found 2 sun-moon shells easily. Unfortunately, neither of these 2 shells belonged to the king. Crack! Suddenly, there was a muffled noise in this place. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. Let's go. This small world is about to break. The destruction of the small world was actually not a big problem for Han Fei. In this fragmented small world, although there would be void storms, Han Fei had passed through them more than once or twice. However, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish had never passed through them. So, Han Fei carved an array in the air, and in the blink of an eye, a teleportation array appeared. Xia Xiaochan came at this time, glanced at the small world that was about to break, and took Han Fei's elbow. The next moment, the 2 disappeared from this space. Swish, when the 2 appeared in the outside world, they saw that the small tower-like stone was full of cracks. In less than 3 breaths of time, it shattered into pieces and shattered into pieces. Han Fei said, "The treasures on this person have already been taken. Otherwise, he would have used a sea-quelling bizarre treasure instead of an ultra-quality divine weapon. However, it's not that he didn't gain anything. Let's wait and see." Han Fei took out the 2 sun-moon shells he had just obtained, opened them, and found that there were very few things inside. Among them, there were no ultra-quality spiritual stones, spiritual spring, spiritual fruits, and the like. This made Han Fei feel strange. After all, these people who died were all venerable realm experts. There should be some backup resources in the sun-moon shells. However, there was nothing in these 2 sun-moon shells but a pile of various materials. Xia Xiaochan asked, "What did you find?" Han Fei waved his hand, and suddenly, a pile of earth-yellow stones in total fell out. As soon as these stones appeared, including Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish, they immediately discovered that these stones contained some kind of terrifying power. Xia Xiaochan asked, "What is this?" Han Fei was surprised. The old turtle said, "Mysterious yellow stone? This thing is extraordinary. Even in the heaven-opening realm, mysterious yellow stone is a rare cultivation treasure." In Han Fei's eyes, information also emerged. Name: mysterious yellow stone. Introduction: a strange stone condensed by mysterious yellow gas, which can only be formed after being precipitated for countless years in an extremely special environment. It is very precious. The mysterious yellow stone contains a large amount of mysterious yellow gas, which is an extremely high-end energy of heaven and earth that can replace other energy of heaven and earth. Level: heaven-opening realm. Quality: high quality. Contains mysterious yellow gas. Unknown. Remarks: you can use the mysterious yellow stone more effectively if you practice cultivation methods related to mysterious yellow gas. Seeing the explanation of this mysterious yellow stone, Han Fei couldn't help but smile. This seems to be a pleasant surprise. Originally, he just came here to find the key to the Imperial Palace. And these 13 mysterious yellow stones not only had Taoist aura, but also a kind of high-level energy. More importantly, he suddenly got as many as 13 of them. The conditions that the Snow Girls discussed with him were to let him bring back 20 keys to the Imperial Palace, protect the safety of the ice and snow beginner, and take care of the people from the ice and snow heavens. Now, he just casually picked them up, and plus the ones he had unconsciously seen before, he had 14 keys to the Imperial Palace. The key was that these keys were still useful. How much mysterious yellow gas was in the mysterious yellow stone? Han Fei didn't know yet. However, Han Fei knew that there was a mysterious yellow sutra in the dragon-taming heaven. If he could get his hands on this cultivation technique, then this mysterious yellow stone would naturally be of use to him. The hexagon starfish's tentacles, unconsciously, had reached out to a mysterious yellow stone. Han Fei said leisurely, "If you dare to move, I will cut off your tentacles and make them in a barbecue." The hexagon starfish retracted his tentacles and said leisurely, "It's shiny. I can help you keep it. It doesn't take up space." Han Fei looked at Xia Xiaochan. "This is the key to the Imperial Palace, and it is a very high-level one. Let's keep this kind of key for ourselves." Xia Xiaochan grunted and then grabbed the big white cocoon in her hand and said, I feel that there seems to be something moving inside. Chapter 1765. It's moving. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder. It's been tens of thousands of years. What can live for so long? Xia Xiaochan said, Open it and you'll know. With that, Xia Xiaochan pointed a sharp knife and cut the big white cocoon. As a result, the surface of the big cocoon flickered with dazzling flames. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were both surprised. What's this? How can it resist the cutting of a venerable? A dagger appeared in Xia Xiaochan's hand, and she quickly sliced the big cocoon. Finally, she managed to make a cut on it. However, at that moment, Xia Xiaochan threw the big cocoon at Han Fei and said with disgust, Bug. Bug? Although Han Fei didn't like bugs, he wasn't afraid of them. After all, when he was in the Shuimu heaven, there was a whole group of bugs. At that time, many bugs even cheered him on. When Han Fei looked down, he saw that the big white cocoon was filled with a bubbling dark green liquid. In this liquid, a fleshy bug was bobbing up and down. Hello, everyone. We will find gold and coin red packets every day on our WeChat account. You can receive them as long as you follow us. This is the last benefit at the end of the year. Please seize the opportunity. WeChat account. Han Fei thought to himself, isn't this a Tao-devouring demon bug? But the information that emerged in his eyes was different. Name, Tao-devouring bug king. Introduction, a kind of extremely rare primeval ancient bug that can devour the Great Way and control souls. The Tao-devouring bug king can accumulate the power of the Great Way and launch an attack of the Great Way. As long as it doesn't die, it can often change its host. When the Tao-devouring bug king devours the power of the host, it can directly replace the host and directly obtain the strength of the host. When the Tao-devouring bug king leaves the host, there is a certain chance that the host will die. Level 1, Quality, Primeval Ancient Bug, contains swordsmanship, edible effect, inedible, collectible, uncollectible, absorbable. Remarks, in its current state, it can be recognized as its master with just a drop of blood. When Han Fei saw this bug, he couldn't help but think, the ability of this bug is really amazing. If I have the right opportunity, this thing can directly give me the combat power of a king-level powerhouse. That's not a joke. However, Han Fei thought to himself, if I become a king, my strength will soar. At that time, he might not necessarily need this thing. So, he might as well give it to Xia Xiaochan. Her background was more complicated than she had thought. One more king was another layer of protection. As for where the king came from, he could only hunt them slowly in the future. Han Fei immediately said, Girl, I'll let you refine this insect. Its power will be extraordinary. I don't want a Han Fei. Xia Xiaochan said, I hate bugs. This looks very similar to the one outside the cave. It's obviously not an insect. Refine it yourself. Han Fei was amused. Hey, after all, it wasn't easy for you to snatch it. Just because you say no, do they not care about their reputation? Xia Xiaochan snorted. Heavenly Cicada is already very powerful. Besides, I still have the giant arowana, a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Countless resources. I'm rich now. You can refine this little bug. Han Fei was speechless. Wait, how many things have you stuffed into the hexagon starfish's door? The hexagon starfish said, Not much, not much. It won't take long. Xia Xiaochan glared at the hexagon starfish. More than that. You may not believe it. I've saved 10 million ultra-quality spiritual stones. I've also saved 2 sets of sea-quelling bizarre treasures. I've saved more than 200,000 spiritual fruits. Oh, I've hidden more than 1,700 treasure maps. As for the king's flesh, I've hidden a small hill. And the floating stones, I've also made a small hill. Han Fei. After hearing Xia Xiaochan's report, Han Fei was shocked. Han Fei was speechless. Wait, aren't you forced to cultivate every day? Where did you get so many things? You even have king's flesh? 2 sets of sea-quelling bizarre treasures. And more than 200,000 spiritual fruits? Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but blush. Didn't I join a pirate crew for a while? Once, I robbed a ship at the Grand Purity Palace and happened to get these. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Didn't you give anything to the crew? Xiao Xiaochan looked puzzled. Then am I a princess, or are they princesses? I've saved so many resources, waiting for an opportunity to escape back to the yin-yang heaven. Otherwise, I can't go back empty-handed, can I? The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. If I didn't know better, I would think that you were going to buy the yin-yang heaven. Han Fei said with shame, Fine. God knows how much of your stuff this starfish has eaten. It's been eaten to this extent. Forget it. Since you don't want this bug, I'll take it. I have a hunch that I'll need it in the future. Han Fei thought to himself that he and Xia Xiaochan would eventually return to the yin-yang heaven. However, the cage seal of the yin-yang heaven was a big problem. Han Fei couldn't imagine what impact the cage seal would have on the yin-yang heaven and the waterwood heaven once it was broken. He couldn't judge whether it would have any impact on the outside world of the barbaric abyss if the seal was broken. In fact, would yin-yang heaven appear in the chaotic azure sea again in the future? After all, he had been hiding in the barbaric abyss for tens of thousands of years. In the future, if the time was right and he had the opportunity to go out, would he want it or not? If he wanted to come out, he would first have to face the 36 mysterious heavens, the Grand Pure and Wuji Immortal Palace, and Xia Xiaochan. If her father knew that she had gone to the yin-yang heaven, would he send someone to the yin-yang heaven? However, Han Fei wasn't worried about this. Since her father couldn't come to the chaotic ocean, he probably didn't have the means to go to the yin-yang heaven. Occasionally sending one or two subordinates and going to the yin-yang heaven in person were two different things. Han Fei said that he didn't feel sad for human beings, but when the yin-yang heaven belonged to his force, he had to be careful. After all, those people were under his protection. He had to consider more and more problems. However, in the blink of an eye, Han Fei swept away his melancholy. Originally, he planned to stop after finding his sister. Then, he would immediately return to the yin-yang heaven and find a way to become a king. Finding Xia Xiaochan was a pleasant surprise. This great joy was enough to wash away a lot of his melancholy. Seeing that Xia Xiaochan was still glancing at the bug in the big white cocoon with slight disdain, Han Fei couldn't help but laugh. Then, Han Fei pointed his finger, and a wisp of golden blood dripped from his fingertip into the cocoon. When Xia Xiaochan saw Han Fei's golden blood, she subconsciously looked up at Han Fei, seeming a little surprised. She thought to herself, the human bloodline shouldn't have golden blood. However, thinking that she had experienced so much with Han Fei, maybe he had accidentally obtained some treasures and improved his bloodline. In just over 20 years, in a place where everything was scarce in the yin-yang heaven, he had advanced to the peak stage of the venerable realm. This was completely different from when she had advanced to the peak stage of the venerable realm in the mermaid royal family. How could Xia Xiaochan not understand? When this Tao-devouring bug king swallowed Han Fei's essence blood, Han Fei immediately established a spiritual connection with it. At this moment, this bug was still too fragile. Even if it was a savage ancient bug, it sounded scary. But now it was just a little bug at the mercy of Han Fei. Anyway, Han Fei wouldn't need it for a while, so he threw it into the spirit awakening fluid in Forge the Universe. Although this bug drank it like water, it couldn't drink much, so he just let it be. At this point, this harvest was over. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, he asked Little White to continue to find the way. Han Fei felt that it was too easy to find the city of dead men. The entrance had been openly placed here for tens of thousands of years, but no one could find it. Wasn't this strange? However, after only 2 minutes, Little White swam back with a swish and rubbed against Han Fei. Dad, there's a very, very dangerous place here. Han Fei said in surprise. You found it so soon? Why didn't we find it just now? Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other, and Xia Xiaochan also said in surprise, I didn't feel it either. There shouldn't be a second cave entrance here, right? The two of them followed Little White suspiciously. After swimming for only more than 10 kilometers, they saw a long and narrow crack on the rock wall. Both Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei had discovered this crack a long time ago. However, although this crack was long and narrow, it was only about 200 meters deep, which could accommodate about 2 or 3 people walking side by side. When Han Fei walked into this crack, he saw that the rock wall of this crack was engraved with dense arrays. Han Fei was surprised. "My perception has been deceived," Xia Xiaochan said. "No wonder no one has been able to find the crisis in the underground palace. Because the array to the city of dead men is still there. It turns out that they're all attracted here. Shall we give it a try?" Han Fei didn't speak. There were two worlds inside and outside this crack. In the past, when he was alone, he was still careful. Now, with Xia Xiaochan, he had to be even more careful. Han Fei took out the nine-palace ruler of destiny, and with a swish, it floated in the air, letting the ruler swim freely. Han Fei didn't hide this from Xia Xiaochan. Although the nine-palace ruler of destiny was good, if even Xia Xiaochan had to keep it secret, how tired would he be? Xia Xiaochan had heard Han Fei mention the nine-palace ruler of destiny, but it was the first time she had seen it. At this moment, she only felt it was quite amazing. But then, when the ruler mark was engraved on the great misfortune hexagram, Han Fei couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He could definitely deal with the great misfortune. However, Xia Xiaochan's face was tense, as if she felt that a great battle was imminent. Han Fei frowned. Unfortunately, the nine-palace ruler of destiny could only change one person's luck. He didn't care about the great misfortune, but he had just found Xia Xiaochan, and he wouldn't let her take the risk no matter what. So, with a thought, Han Fei threw 6 streams of chaotic energy into it in a row. Finally, the ruler mark of the nine-palace ruler of destiny was changed to the misfortune hexagram. However, this misfortune hexagram was not his own, but Xia Xiaochan's. Chapter 1766. Over the years, Han Fei had encountered a lot of dangerous situations. Even if it was a desperate situation, Han Fei had encountered it twice. Therefore, this mere great calamity might really be great calamity to other cultivators of the same realm. However, Han Fei believed that it couldn't hurt him at all. Han Fei said, "Go in. As long as it's not a desperate situation, even if it's a dangerous situation, it's not a dangerous situation. Master Hexagon, in order to survive, you'd better hurry up. When it's time to use an array, don't hesitate." The Hexagon Starfish's big eyes rolled. "Starfish, can you not go? Starfish is waiting for you to come out outside." Han Fei grinned. "Okay, even if you go back, if another half-king realm powerhouse comes here, do you think you can hide? Or will they break the array and catch you?" The Hexagon Starfish's eyes widened. Then I'd better go." In fact, the Hexagon Starfish was smart. Staying outside was definitely more dangerous than following Han Fei. Han Fei was a freak who could resist the bombardment of a King Rel powerhouse. With such a combat power, it would be unwise to stay outside. Xia Xiaochan snorted. "Go in. No matter where I go now, I feel comfortable. Anyway, I don't have to go back to the mermaid royal family anymore." While talking, the two of them stepped into the crack at the same time. Sure enough, when the two of them walked in, the scene in front of them immediately changed. This was not a crack at all. What appeared in front of the two of them was the entrance of a cave. There were 3 words engraved on the entrance, which was called Whale Valley. Looking at the desolate cave entrance, there were only bare stones left. Even here, the entrance was dilapidated and covered with dust. It looked like a silk coiling cave. Han Fei looked back, only to see nothing behind him. Obviously, the way he came here had been cut off. Xia Xiaochan asked. On the map, the words Whale Valley were never mentioned. Has this place not been explored? Han Fei shook his head. Impossible. This city of the dead is too conspicuous. There are only 12 such 5-star dangerous places in total. Including the small world we just went to, it should have been explored. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to obtain 2 sun-moon shells. In my opinion, although most people haven't discovered the city of the dead, they will definitely discover the Whale Valley. The reason why he didn't mention it. Xia Xiaochan's face changed slightly. It means that they're all dead. Come on, let's go. Both Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan had been bold since they were little. The number of mystic realms he had passed through was innumerable. Therefore, the two of them walked in without hesitation. The moment they entered the Whale Valley, The two of them immediately felt the pressure on their bodies increase dramatically. The surrounding void also seemed to be squeezing. The two of them felt as if they were on the edge of a cliff and were about to fall. Squeak! Squeak! Behind Xia Xiaochan, the heavenly cicada wings were spread out and flapped. An inexplicable rhythm of the great Tao expelled the surrounding power, allowing Xia Xiaochan to fly in the sky. Han Fei immediately discovered that he couldn't fly here. With a thought in his mind, the endless water rolled up like a dragon. Han Fei stood calmly on the infinity water and looked down. Gurgle, gurgle, he saw that below him was a pool of venomous swamp water. When Han Fei found that his clothes were being corroded by the gas here, he was about to remind Mr. Hexagon Starfish. With a hum, Mr. Hexagon Starfish had set up an array in advance. This array was surrounded by purple gas, enveloping Han Fei in it. Mr. Hexagon sighed. It's too dangerous. The pool water here can corrode the body and soul. I knew it was not easy to come to this place. See, Starfish was right, wasn't he? Xia Xiaochan scoffed. Shut up. You talk too much all day. Believe it or not, I'll throw you into this pool. Although he knew that Xia Xiaochan was just threatening him, the Hexagon Starfish still chose to shut up. After all, neither of them was very good-tempered. God knew if they would go crazy. Han Fei secretly clenched his fingers. The beginning was already so weird. If he didn't have some tricks up his sleeves, he would probably be able to defeat some of them at the beginning. Crack! Crack! As soon as the two of them stabilized their bodies, they saw huge cone-shaped sharp blades appearing up and down in the sky and the poisonous swamp. The big swords, which looked like small mountains, rushed towards Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. Han Fei reacted extremely quickly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed in the air, and a void crack slashed at them. Bam! 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 After a series of explosions, this giant sword-like all finally collapsed. Xia Xiaochan flickered a few times and appeared above a vertebra. She said in surprise, "It's a sword chi-killing array. It's displayed through spiritual energy." Han Fei nodded. In all directions, there were more and more such big swords. At the beginning, there were only 2, but now there were dozens, and the number seemed to be increasing. Han Fei said, "The power of this blow is equivalent to the power of a peak-level venerable. Let's go. Don't fight." In the giant sword shadows, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were like a small boat, passing through this poisonous swamp that was like a rain of big swords. The two of them ran more than 300 kilometers in a row before the sword formation slowly disappeared. It seemed that their range was only as large as a 300-kilometer area. Xia Xiaochan said, "Are you okay? The clothes on your body are basically unwearable." Han Fei looked down at the clothes on his body, which were basically as ragged as a beggar's. Oh no, the clothes of a beggar might be better. Just now, Han Fei took the initiative to leave the Hexagon Starfish array for convenience. After all, Han Fei was proud of his strong physique. Although this was the case, he still looked quite embarrassed. After all, his clothes were not as strong as Han Fei's current body. Han Fei smiled awkwardly and a set of ultra-quality divine battle suits appeared on his body again. Han Fei said, "This place is definitely not so simple. There is such a big movement just now, but now there is nothing. It doesn't make sense." Xia Xiaochan flew over and wondered, "I always feel that we have come to the wrong place. The city of the dead has been explored. What kind of secret realm is it? Why is it hidden in another secret realm?" Han Fei said, "This is just an undersea cave. We thought this was a secret realm. However, secret realms are originally hidden deeply. Otherwise, how could they be called secret realms?" Huh! As soon as Han Fei said this, suddenly, a huge suction force wrapped the two of them. In the void in all directions, a gale was raging. This suction force was actually somewhat comparable to the suction force of the Heaven and Earth Nature Array. Han Fei immediately clasped Xia Xiaochan's waist with the void lines. The two of them almost flew side by side into the depths of this poisonous swamp. Xia Xiaochan flapped her wings, but her face changed drastically. What a powerful suction force! Han Fei's face didn't look good either. This suction force seemed to exceed the power range of the Half-King realm and had reached the Sea expansion realm. There's a restriction spell here. Han Fei tried to block this suction force. However, the restriction spell, which had always been powerful, didn't work here at all. Han Fei thought to himself, there's only one way to go here. It seems that everything is set up. Therefore, he and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other and instantly reached a consensus. In an instant, the two of them gave up resisting at the same time and let the terrifying suction force directly suck them thousands of kilometers away. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan saw a big black hole, Han Fei even joked, if Quan Quan were here, he would be shocked. The way he walks is quite extraordinary. Xia Xiaochan rolled her eyes and thought to herself, are you kidding in this dangerous place? The two of them were swept up by the hurricane and immediately crashed into a sea. However, the two of them immediately found something wrong. Xia Xiaochan said to Han Fei via voice transmission, this is not seawater. Han Fei was also shocked. What a strong corrosive force. Han Fei wanted to probe out his perception. However, his perception was corroded again, and Han Fei was so scared that he quickly took it back. The hexagon starfish did not hesitate to unfold the six-gate formation, immediately enveloping Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. He shouted, it's over, it's over. The starfish feels that this force is accelerating the corrosion of the starfish's formation. Han Fei looked down at his battle suit that had just been damaged, only to find that it had been corroded again. Xia Xiaochan wasn't much better. Her battle suit was also corroded and ragged. Hula. Even then, the corrosive liquid was still roiling, surging like the tide. Suddenly, Han Fei saw a large area of glowing objects not far away. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan looked at it together, they found that it was a powerful creature. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, is it a Half-King realm expert of the 100 Demons clan? Because the other party's true body had appeared, information immediately appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Name, Nightmare Sea Squid, dying. Introduction, a divine sea giant squid that is good at psychedelic, dream manipulation, hypnosis, and other soul manipulation techniques. It often hides in the dark and creates an environment with grenades and enemies. The Nightmare Sea Squid has 7 great strength and can burst out dreamlike rays from its pupils, which can catch people off guard. Level 89, quality, legendary, realm, Half-King, path, psychedelic, contains chaotic chi, 268, battle techniques, dark decay, dream manipulation, nightmare demon kill, collectible, dream-eating tooth, dream eye absorbable. Note, with dream eye, there's a chance to prevent hypnosis. The weapon forged by the dream-eating tooth can directly attack the soul. Hiss, a dying Half-King realm expert? Han Fei's heart did a flip. Even this Half-King realm expert didn't survive here, which meant that it was extremely difficult to find a way here. Fortunately, he didn't use up the Navigator King's myriad manifestations at the beginning. Sure enough, it was useful now. However, when he saw the Nightmare Sea Squid, Han Fei had a bad feeling. Am I in a fish's stomach? First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1767. The reason why Han Fei had such an idea was that the two of them had encountered too many corrosive liquids along the way. At first, Han Fei thought that it was a poisonous swamp. However, when a giant squid appeared here, Han Fei didn't feel good. He remembered what whales usually like to do: swallow squids and sea squids. It seemed that squid and the like were their favorite food. More importantly, the Whale Valley. It was a strange name. After all, Han Fei hadn't seen any whales along the way. However, now that he thought about it, they seemed to have similar features. Could it be that this was a king from tens of thousands of years ago was still alive? However, didn't he just kill the corpse of king? Why was there another one now? The Nightmare Sea Squid was dying, but it still had more than 200 wisps of chaotic energy. How could Han Fei tolerate that? No matter what environment he was in, he couldn't let go of at least 200 wisps of chaotic energy. Earlier, when Han Fei killed the 3 peak-level venerable demons, he didn't even have 200 wisps of chaotic energy in total. Obviously, a half-king was still a half-king. A peak-level venerable couldn't compare to it. The nightmare sea squid naturally saw Han Fei and the others, but it didn't care about them anymore. Any creature it saw now was like a life-saving straw. Besides, those two were only peak-level venerables. Even though it was dying, it couldn't be as powerful as two peak-level venerables, could it? Immediately, the nightmare sea squid swam over with a swish. Its eyes turned purple, and it roared, "Dream invasion!" However, before it burst out, the nightmare sea squid suddenly sensed a life-and-death crisis. The speed was so fast that it couldn't escape anymore. A moment later, before the nightmare sea cuttlefish could complete its dreamland attack, it felt as though its consciousness had been invaded. The nightmare sea squid was shocked. What kind of power is this? It's even more direct than my dream invasion technique. At the same time, it also sensed that the chaotic energy in its body was fading. How could it not realize at this moment that its opponent wasn't someone to be trifled with? How could anyone who could survive here be a weakling? At this moment, it could only lament, "I am too weak now. Otherwise, I would definitely be able to fight." However, when it was completely controlled by Han Fei's void lines, it roared, "You will die too, just a little later than me." "I'll be waiting for you," Xia Xiaochan said. "Huh? This must be a nightmare sea squid. Its ability to enter dreams is extremely terrifying. Why didn't it attack?" Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei and realized that he had already taken action. Han Fei said, "It was dying in the first place. I just sent it on its way. However, we have to leave this place as soon as possible." Xia Xiaochan looked around, only to find that she was surrounded by the poisonous swamp and couldn't release her senses. The hexagon starfish also screamed, "Starfish can't hold on much longer. This poison is too powerful, and Starfish is only a mid-level venerable." Han Fei glanced at it and said, "Now you know how dangerous it is outside?" This was just a place where a king had died. In the future, if we go to the Imperial Palace, how useful will your six-gate formation be? At that time, it will all depend on your realm. Xia Xiaochan added, "There are only 32 years left before we go to the Imperial Palace. Big Starfish, this may be the last 32 years of your life." Hiss! The hexagon starfish was frightened and felt that death had never been so close. It was said that the Imperial Palace was a dangerous place. Only 1 out of 10 venerables could come out. Was this a joke? The hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes were rolling. Then Starfish will make a breakthrough after we go out. Although the breakthrough is a bit painful, Starfish is already on the verge of a breakthrough. This nightmare sea squid could have held on for a while, but after being controlled by Han Fei, its body was corroding at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the vitality, soul, and chaotic energy that Han Fei absorbed from it were endless. After a full 10 minutes, under the repeated urging of the old turtle, Han Fei finally sucked the nightmare sea squid clean. Even then, Han Fei didn't let go of the dream-eating teeth and dream eyes on the nightmare sea squid. The dream-eating teeth were just the teeth of the nightmare sea squid. Because of their inherent specialties, they could directly attack the soul. As for the dream eyes, they were 2 thumb-sized crystal beads in the eyes. Han Fei grabbed the dream eyes and handed one to Xia Xiaochan. "You can eat it," Xia Xiaochan asked. "Can I eat it cooked?" Han Fei thought to himself, "That's true. It's indeed tasteless to eat it raw." So Han Fei put it away and said, "Then let's eat it cooked when we go out." Xia Xiaochan immediately said, "I'm fast and I have the cicadas to scout the way. Wait here for a while. I'll find a way." Han Fei grabbed Xia Xiaochan. "Don't bother. I have my own plan." Han Fei thought to himself, "The nautical multitude is really useful. In the chaotic ocean, this thing is like a divine artifact. In terms of finding a way, it can be invincible in the chaotic ocean. This mortal saint artifact was definitely going to be used frequently. Therefore, Han Fei directly took it out. He didn't want to wait for Xia Xiaochan to ask, and then he would have to make up a story. As soon as the nautical multitude was taken out, the 5 rings inside and outside began to rotate rapidly, and soon the direction was determined. Because this was not the foggy area of the chaotic ocean, this direction would not change. The two of them ran for more than 600 kilometers before they found an exit. At this moment, the hexagon starfish's six-gate formation was still intact. Han Fei thought to himself, mysterious creatures are really powerful. Even a half-king can't hold on for long in this place. The hexagon starfish keeps saying that it's dying, but it's still holding on until now. In a sense, the defense of the hexagon starfish is actually stronger than that of a half-king realm sea demon. But this guy is only a peak-level intermediate venerable. This was already the third hole that they had passed. When the two of them drilled into this hole again, they appeared on a swampland. Yes, this time it was really a swamp. Some places were green, bubbling swamps, and some places were grassy lands. As soon as the two of them came in, they found that there were several senses sweeping over. The two of them looked back, and Han Fei was slightly surprised. He knew two of them. Ji Chun from the Grand Purity Palace was here. In addition, there was another familiar face. This person seemed to be one of the 5 elements disciples of the Heaven of 5 Elements, but he was not familiar with him. In the battle for the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree, Han Fei mainly fought against the Golden Crow Heaven. He guessed that the people of the Heaven of 5 Elements were just watching the show, so they didn't make a move. If Han Fei remembered correctly, this person seemed to be called Chun Hao of the 5 Elements. Apart from these two people, there were 2 half-monarch realm powerhouses protecting them by their sides. Ji Chun and Chun Hao of the 5 Elements naturally didn't know Han Fei's current appearance. However, they would never forget Xia Xiaochan. She was the favored one on Yi Qinglong's ship. Because Xia Xiaochan was so beautiful, she attracted everyone's attention. Therefore, it was difficult to forget her. At this moment, around the land where Ji Chun and Chun Hao of the 5 Elements were, a large number of puppet corpses were besieging them. Therefore, when they saw Han Fei and Chun Hao, their faces changed slightly. Ji Chun growled in a low voice, "You 4 keep attacking." Chun Hao of the 5 Elements understood what Ji Chun meant. He rose into the air with Ji Chun and faced Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan head-on. Xia Xiaochan reminded him, "Han Fei, there is no spiritual energy or energy in this space, and it seems to swallow energy. If you use spiritual fruits, I'm afraid it won't be enough if a battle breaks out." Han Fei said, "It doesn't matter. It's really a narrow road for enemies. I'm a little curious. How did they get ahead of us?" The hexagon starfish murmured, "You've been in the small world for 3 days." Han Fei glanced at the hexagon starfish and thought, "I don't know. Do I need you to tell me?" On the opposite side, Ji Chun was holding the azure dragon sword, which was trembling and faintly roaring. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. A sea-quelling bizarre treasure? Chun Hao of the 5 Elements weapons were also extraordinary. He held a shield in his left hand and a 5-color wheel in his right hand. The giant shield was undoubtedly an ultra-quality divine weapon. The 5-color wheel, on the other hand, seemed to be of a higher quality than an ultra-quality divine weapon. Han Fei guessed that it should be a low-quality, sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Han Fei couldn't help licking the corner of his mouth. A venerable who could get a sea-quelling bizarre treasure must have a high status. Han Fei thought to himself, "Are they the big bad guys?" "I don't think so." Chun Hao of the 5 Elements smiled. 2 peak-level venerables. TSK. Interesting. That girl's status in the mermaid clan must be high. Ji Chun said lightly. She must be a member of the royal family of the mermaids, since she can board Yi Qinglong's ship. The royal blood flows in her body. Don't treat her as an ordinary peak-level venerable. Chun Hao of the 5 Elements said, "Fellow Taoist Ji Chun, in that case, can you leave the royal girl to me?" Ji Chun sneered in his heart. "If you can take it, you can have a try." Swish, 2 daggers appeared in Xia Xiaochan's hands. With a swish, Xia Xiaochan disappeared without a trace. In the air, Xia Xiaochan's voice echoed. "How dare you? Are people from the Avalon of 5 Elements so arrogant now?" "Huh? A hunter?" Chun Hao of the 5 Elements saw that Xia Xiaochan had avoided his perception and disappeared. He couldn't help but frown. Now, there were also mermaids who were hunters of the human race. Ji Chun looked at Han Fei with a sword in his hand and snorted. "You're a human being. How dare you hang out with the mermaids?" Whose family are you from? Hee. Han Fei smiled creepily. I'll tell you when you're about to die. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1768. Even in the yin-yang heaven, where there were internal and external troubles and an extreme shortage of manpower, Han Fei didn't even bat an eyelid when dealing with some human masters. Ji Chun deliberately helped the people of the Golden Crow Heaven under the Heavenly Fault ancient tree that day, trying to embarrass the Snow God's temple. How could Han Fei forget this? Although Han Fei wasn't a member of the Snow God's temple, at least he pretended to be a member of the Snow God's temple at that time. Bingxue Chuling being bullied was no different from him being bullied. Besides, Han Fei didn't like the people he met in the Grand Purity Palace. At this moment, everyone was in a secret realm. Did Ji Chun want to suppress him with the so-called righteousness? Not only that, he even asked, "Whose family are you from?" A question like that. How could Han Fei bear this? Han Fei's face turned cold. He stretched out his hand, and a crack appeared in the void. He was going to kill Ji Chun. Since Ji Chun was able to become a genius disciple of the Sky Purity Palace, he was naturally not a fool. His strength was similarly terrifying. At the moment when Han Fei attacked, Ji Chun reacted very quickly. The sword rippled, and the sword intent soared into the sky. The aura of the Great Way was all integrated into the sword. Clang, the sword and the knife collided. Golden spears exploded, and the sword chi and knife waves swept in all directions. After taking Han Fei's attack, Ji Chun's face changed slightly. How can the power be so strong without using the Tao? Unfortunately, Han Fei wouldn't answer his question. Han Fei pointed the embroidery needle in his hand, and Ji Chun instinctively felt that something was wrong. Seeing that there was no impact, he immediately condensed his soul power into a wall, trying to resist. Ji Chun's eyelids trembled, and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. He was shocked. What a powerful soul attack. But Han Fei was also slightly surprised. This guy actually blocked his divine god stab, and he was prepared in advance. At the moment of life and death, Han Fei wasn't a pretentious person. If the first attack failed, there would be another one. He took out the embroidery needle, not just for the divine god stab. Immediately after, the heavenly god thrust was unleashed with the heavenly gate. At the moment when Ji Chun's soul was injured, he certainly did something. He had discovered Han Fei's strength, but he had lost the upper hand. He wanted to get it back. The black hairpin on his head was cut off, and a shocking sword shadow, smooth and dazzling, stabbed at Han Fei with the power of the Great Path, Han Fei's eyelids twitched, and he punched out the sacrificing punch without hesitation. At the moment when the sacrificing punch burst out, Han Fei had already foreseen the destruction of the fist mark. As expected, in just one move, the sword shadow actually pierced through the sacrificing punch from head to tail. Of course, piercing through the sacrificial punch was not without a price. The sword shadows were weakened, and Han Fei took out a huge shield. In an instant, a golden giant gathered in front of Han Fei. The supreme gray divine weapon shield instantly shone with a golden light. Ding, crack, bang, bang. All these decisions were made in the blink of an eye after Han Fei and Ji Chun met. Without actual combat experience, it was impossible to make such a decisive move. Even so, Han Fei was blasted away by the king's sword, and his body was directly blasted into the swamp, retreating more than 30 kilometers. Of course, Ji Chun was not much better. Although he blasted Han Fei back with a king's sword, he also took Han Fei's Heaven Gate attack head-on. Han Fei's attack had always been merciless. At the beginning, Han Fei used the power of the Great Path. In the first 10 seconds, he could completely exert the power of a king. Therefore, even in the face of a king's blow, Han Fei dared to take it head-on. At this time, Ji Chun was blasted back more than 200 kilometers with a single blow. The battle suit on his body was shattered, his arms were broken, and blood spurted wildly. Ji Chun was dumbfounded. This person is so domineering. He actually took a blow from a king of the Grand Purity Palace head-on, and can still burst out such a powerful force? Who the hell is he? This time, among the heavenly talents of the 36 mysterious heavens, Where is he? Wait. Ji-Chen suddenly remembered that when Han Fei bombarded the king's sword just now, the fist mark that burst out. Why was it so similar to the punch that Holy Child Shuezhan burst out after getting the Heavenly Fault Star Fruit on the top of the Heavenly Fault Tree? At that time, in order to avoid the battle and let them know that the competition was over, Holy Child Shuezhan blasted the last punch at the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree. However, that punch at that time was not as powerful as just now. Therefore, that punch from back then had been drawn into the void by him. Now that he thought about it, he was terrified. Could this person be Ba? Han Fei spat out a mouthful of blood, then reached out and waved his hand, and the essence blood returned. Han Fei underestimated the blow of the king of the Grand Purity Palace. Not only did his sacrificing punch fail to block it, but the ultra-quality divine shield shrouded with invincible will was also cut open. In the end, the coiled turtle array on his body was also shattered. Even so, a trace of sword chi still entered his body. Fortunately, Han Fei's physique was strong, so he forcibly resisted this blow and was only slightly injured. However, judging from the power of this sword, Han Fei knew that the king of the Grand Purity Palace was extremely strong. This casual blow was already so strong. If it was a head-on confrontation, he would definitely be defeated. However, if he couldn't defeat the king, how could he be defeated by a half-king? Darling, are you okay? Han Fei nodded. I'm fine. Go on. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan had just fought with Chun Hao of the Five Elements. Xia Xiaochan was extremely fast in the first place, and even Han Fei could only block her attacks with a burst of super high speed. Now, with the sea-quelling bizarre treasure in her hand, she launched nearly 1,000 attacks in an instant. Chun Hao the Five Elements ultra-quality divine shield, just like Han Fei's shield just now, was cut into pieces in the blink of an eye. Chun Hao the Five Elements was dumbfounded. F***CK, what kind of person is this? Can't an ultra-quality divine weapon be used as a weapon? Forced, Chun Hao the Five Elements stepped on a lotus flower, and in the array of the five elements, a five-color wheel was rotating. That was his sea-quelling bizarre treasure, the Five Elements wheel. Originally, Chun Hao of the Five Elements hoped that he could win easily. However, as soon as they met, he was forced to defend. Both Chun Hao the Five Elements and Ji-Chun were very angry. Two half-kings were miserably beaten by two peak-level venerables. Wouldn't it be shameful if such a thing spread out? Down below, the other half-king experts of the Grand Purity Palace and the Avalon of Five Elements all changed their expressions and directly gave up the original battle. The newcomers were too strong, and Ji-Chun and Chun Hao the Five Elements were very important figures of the Grand Purity Palace and the Avalon of Five Elements. Seeing that all the opponents had come out, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan almost made a decision at the same time. Got it. Xia Xiaochan directly used the Heavenly Cicada transformation and the Heavenly Cicada wings. At the same time, she shouted in a low voice, "Fuse!" Huh! The giant arowana let out a low roar, which sounded like the roar of a true dragon. Everyone present, including Han Fei, felt dizzy. And Han Fei, like Xia Xiaochan, chose to fuse directly. At this moment, he didn't intend to let any of them go, so he might as well kill them all. That was good. All the treasures in the secret realm would be his. Different from the roar of the giant arowana, when Han Fei used the Yin-Yang Divine Eyes, Ji Xian immediately exclaimed, "How? Is it possible? Is this the Yin-Yang Divine Eyes? You're not from the Snow God's temple. You're from the Yin-Yang Heaven." Crack! As Ji-Chan shouted these words, a jade slip shattered with a cracking sound. The surrounding void shook. This guy wanted to run immediately. Half of his body had already entered the void. Han Fei didn't expect that this guy could escape from here. Seeing that it was too late to stop him, a black mist suddenly sealed the void. Han Fei immediately roared and attacked Ji Xian's head with the 100 Beast Soul Devourer. Then, he attacked again with the Heaven Gate Knock. Don't you dare hurt the heavenly talent of the Grand Purity Palace. Han Fei was about to stab Ji Xian to death with his spear, but the Half-King took the initiative to attack with his spear. Bam! This person wasn't as strong as Ji Chun. Han Fei's Heaven Gate knock carried the power of a king. How could he resist it? The next moment, the man exploded. Han Fei pointed again, and the heavenly god's spike hit the head of another half-king, and the fist mark in his hand rumbled. When Ji Chun woke up from the shock, the first thing he saw was that Han Fei blew up the half-king powerhouse he brought with a punch. Ji Chun roared, "Grand Pure Blue Dragon Sword!" At this moment, Ji Chun only lost for a moment. When he realized how terrifying the enemy was, Ji Chun wanted to make up for this moment. Unfortunately, Han Fei didn't give him this opportunity. At this moment, two half-kings blocked Han Fei and won a chance for Ji Chun. Since he couldn't escape, he might as well take a gamble. Ji Chun regained the upper hand. The Azure Dragon sword in his hand rose into the air with a hint of swordsmanship. It seemed that the power of this sword could penetrate everything in front of him. In addition to this sword, two green jade bracelets on Ji Chun's wrists also rose. "Shoot, you have a lot of tricks." Ji Chun's 3 consecutive strikes were comparable to the strikes of 3 kings in a row. Han Fei thought to himself, "My identity has been exposed. Do you think I can let you run away?" On the other side, Xia Xiaochan let out a cry, and Han Fei directly rushed into the storm-like bombardment. Boom! The pressure of a half-king instantly overwhelmed the entire battlefield. The skeleton monsters nearby were all crushed to pieces. Xia Xiaochan had already assassinated a half-king and was attacking Chun Hao of the 5 elements. Both of them were sent flying at the same time. On the other side, under the bombardment of 3 times, this world seemed to be frozen in Han Fei's eyes. Han Fei's figure shuttled between the strong and the weak of the attacks, slightly blocked the attack of a king with 2 big shields, took Ji Chun's sword head-on, and stabbed one hand into his chest. Ji Chun was horrified. He felt that his soul was being occupied, and his head was buzzing. Han Fei grinned. "I'll keep your sea-quelling bizarre treasure for you." Third update. Please get a monthly vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 1769. Han Fei had to admit that Ji Chun was indeed very strong. He had been in the Pioneer Sea realm the whole time, and it took him 5 minutes to defeat this person. Although the two of them blocked him twice during this period, Ji Chun's hysterical outburst at the end hurt him. Although the sword didn't penetrate Han Fei's body, it still channeled a lot of sword chi into Han Fei's body. Han Fei thought to himself, "It seems that I'm not completely invincible in the Venerable Realm. When I return to the half-king level and continue to push my strength to the peak, I can truly become the strongest person in the Chaotic Ocean Realm." As soon as he finished, Han Fei turned around and saw 7 or 8 Xia Zioacans in the sky. Their attacks were like a storm, continuous and incessant. Han Fei could even sense that the power of each of Xia Xiaochan's attacks was at least in the half-king level. Pooh! Chun Hao of the 5 elements also wanted to escape. However, he found that his 5 elements escape technique didn't work in this place. Chun Hao of the 5 elements saw that his half-king was crazily slaughtered by Xia Xiaochan. The heavenly silkworm wings, like sharp blades, cut the half-king's armor into pieces. Chun Hao the 5 stars said, "Guys, you've been fighting as soon as you arrived. Have you checked your surroundings? This space has been sealed. It's devouring our energy and vitality. I tried just now, but I couldn't escape at all. Instead of fighting to the death, why don't we find a way to get out together? Only by surviving can we have a chance to fight." At this moment, Chun Hao of the 5 elements only felt that his blood was freezing. He held back his arrogance and said those words humbly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bullied the 2 new peak-level venerables with Ji Chun just now. Chun Hao of the 5 elements was extremely puzzled. Where the hell did these 2 super strong masters come from? What did Ji Chun mean just now? "You're not from the Snow God's Temple. You're from the Yin-Yang Heaven?" Then, he wanted to escape? Chun Hao of the 5 elements was really shocked. Chun Hao of the 5 elements reacted very quickly. It was impossible for these prodigies to not know about the history of the 36 Zuantians. He glanced at Ji Chun, who looked like a zombie with a big hole in his chest. But a hole wasn't enough to kill him. He was obviously being controlled. Snow God Palace? There was only one person in the Snow God Palace who could be so powerful, and that was Holy Child Shuezhan. Could this person be Shuezhan? He took off his mask. The more Chen Hao thought about it, the more he felt his scalp go numb. Not to mention Holy Child Shuezhan's strength. The problem is, he doesn't seem to be from the Snow God Palace, but the Yinyang Heaven, the immortal palace that had disappeared for 80,000 years? Han Fei sneered. The battle has already begun. It doesn't matter whether I can get out or not. What matters is that you die first. Cicada, 7 or 8 Xia Xiaochan merged into one, and the heavenly cicada wings on her back turned into a transparent cicada wing, which flew toward Chun Hao's 5 elemental grand formation like a storm of needles. Ding ding ding, dang dang dang. Although Chun Hao was a member of the 5 elements and a disciple of a king, he was only a half-king after all. It was hard enough for him to face Xia Xiaochan alone. He had a sea-quelling bizarre treasure, and so did Xia Xiaochan. He had a powerful spiritual beast, and Xia Xiaochan had too. He was a disciple of a king, and Xia Xiaochan was a royal mermaid. And this was just Xia Xiaochan, not to mention Shuezhan, whose identity was unknown. Even Ji Chun couldn't hold on for more than a few seconds. Now it was impossible for him to hold on with his 5 elements formation. Around them, a large number of puppet corpses were rushing to Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan, intending to fight. However, neither Xia Xiaochan nor Han Fei cared about these puppets at all. The puppets had no consciousness anyway, so they couldn't catch them even if they wanted to. Han Fei was about to take action when Xia Xiaochan stretched out her hand and smashed the hexagon starfish into the 5 elements formation. Not only Han Fei, but Chen Hao the 5 elements was also stunned by this scene. Chen Hao was speechless. I can't beat you too, but you're using an intermediate-level venerable starfish to annoy me? The hexagon starfish also screamed, Han Fei, help me. I'm not a formation-breaking machine. Chen Hao was taken aback. Han Fei. Han Fei. He was too familiar with this name. The death of the 5 elements disciple was caused by Han Fei. This big starfish was called Han Fei. Could it be Han Fei of the Avengers? However, this matter was horrifying. Han Fei was Shuezhan. Shuezhan gave Ran to Han Fei, and Ji Chun mentioned the Yinyang Heaven just now. Chen Hao the 5 elements sucked in a breath of cold air. He couldn't help but think of a top divine technique of the Yinyang Heaven, known as the Gemini Divine Technique, which was known as the best escape technique in the 36 heavens. So, Saint Child Shuezhan and Han Fei of the Avengers were the same person? So, this Han Fei in front of him was the current palace master of the Yinyang Heaven? All this relationship appeared in Chun Hao's mind in an instant. It turned out that the current palace master of the Yinyang Heaven wanted to deal with him. No wonder he'd kill me as soon as he came up. No wonder Han Fei wanted to establish the Avengers. He came back for revenge. Chun Hao the 5 elements wanted to kill the hexagon starfish with the 5 elements reversal array. Of course, the moment the hexagon starfish approached the 5 elements reversal array, the array drilled into the hexagon starfish's body. However, the 5 elements reversal array failed. The hexagon starfish muttered, "Fortunately, I have awakened the formation swallowing divine technique. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous." Han Fei seized the opportunity and blasted out the heavenly god stab. Immediately afterward, he launched the 100 Beasts soul-suppressing roar, intending to directly shock this person's soul. Xia Xiaochan was a natural hunter, and after awakening the heavenly cicada, she was even more elusive. Han Fei only saw a sharp ray of light sweep past Chun Hao's body. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, Chun Hao seemed to have turned into a stone and was cut by Xia Xiaochan. Hum, hum, hum. Immediately afterward, 5 figures appeared, respectively in the colors of the 5 elements. Chun Hao shouted angrily, "Do you want to force me to die with you? Fine, even if you're a peerless heavenly talent, so what? Explode?" The hexagon starfish's reaction was very fast. With a swish, the 6-gate array was opened. Han Fei's reaction was the same, and the mountains and rivers phantom appeared. At this moment, Chun Hao directly detonated all the energy in his sun-moon shell, which was crazy. Xia Xiaochan exclaimed. Is he crazy? The hexagon starfish muttered. Even if I give it to you, you will still be crazy. Seeing the mountains and rivers phantom appear, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish knew that they would be safe after entering the small world. No matter how Chun Hao exploded, it wouldn't affect them. And Han Fei's action of stepping on the coiled turtle array puzzled the two of them. At the moment when the six-gate array was about to collapse, Han Fei smiled at Xia Xiaochan. Wait for me for a while. Rumble, Han Fei didn't follow Xia Xiaochan into the sea-quelling painting. This was not the yin-yang heaven. Since he had done something, he had to eliminate the root of the problem. Even if Chun Hao detonated all the resources he had, so what? Did this mean that he would definitely die? Only if Han Fei personally confirmed that he had died could he be considered dead. For example, this Ji Chun was controlled by the void lines, which could guarantee that he would definitely die. Of course, the premise was that Ji Chun could survive such a violent explosive force. Han Fei quickly carved one small defense array after another with Taoist pattern lines. At the moment when the six-gate array disappeared, 50 or 60 defense arrays were broken in a row. Han Fei also took out 2 giant shields and placed them in front of him. Even so, Han Fei still underestimated the explosion of the massive resources. At this time, Han Fei finally realized the terrifying power when he detonated the White Shell Kingdom. Those people were far away, so he was fine. He was at the center of the explosion. If it weren't for the fact that his physique was extremely strong and he was confident that he could withstand it. Otherwise, Han Fei wouldn't have stayed. After a while, when Han Fei climbed up from the ruins, there were no puppets here. They were basically blown up by Chun Hao of the 5 elements. The swamps within hundreds of kilometers nearby were also blown up. A super huge pit was blown up on the spot. The 2 giant shields in Han Fei's hands now only had a handle left, and the battle suit on Han Fei's body was in tatters. Han Fei couldn't help shaking his head. No, the ultra-quality divine weapons with unsealed spirits are not enough. It seems that I have to continue to improve my refining skills. After a while, when the power of the explosion detonated and there was only the aftermath left in the space, Han Fei summoned Little White to explore the ruins. Daughter, look around and see if there's any trace of that person's aura. However, before he could finish his sentence, Whitey charged into a sea of fire. Dad, it's inside. Han Fei sneered. I knew it. You're really bold. Do you think you could deceive everyone by doing this? Since Little White had found the place, Chun Hao of the 5 elements naturally couldn't escape. Soon, Han Fei pulled out a ball of fire from the sea of fire. The ball of fire was twisting crazily and screaming in horror. Let me go. The Avalon of 5 elements is willing to pay the price for this. We actually have no grudge against each other. Controlling the void lines, Han Fei sneered. Do you really think you're a piece of cake? Do you think you're worth a lot of money? After killing Chun Hao of the 5 elements, Han Fei glanced at Ji Chun, who had been blown up with only broken limbs, and thought to himself, this guy is quite tough. The illusion of mountains and rivers reappeared, and Han Fei was about to release Xia Xiaochan and Mr. Hexagon Starfish. However, there was a flash of light and shadow. Clang, clang, clang. In an instant, Han Fei was slashed 700 or 800 times, and his stomach was stabbed from his belly button to his tailbone. Hey, let's talk nicely. Xia Xiaochan's eyes were red, and her face was full of anger. Talk nicely? I told you to talk nicely. Do you think you're not afraid of anything just because you're a body practitioner? How dare you stay outside alone? How dare you leave me behind? Wow, don't leave me behind in the future. Xia Xiaochan immediately burst into tears, as aggrieved as a little wife who had been bullied. Han Fei's heart tightened, and he quickly hugged her. Good girl, don't cry. No, I can't leave you behind in the future. Chapter 1770. Under Han Fei's repeated reassurance, Xia Xiaochan put away her dagger. Han Fei hurriedly covered his stomach, thinking, thank God I'm a body-tempering cultivator. Otherwise, he would have become a sieve in just a few minutes with 3 knives and 6 holes. Of course, Xia Xiaochan didn't really stab him. The power of the first few attacks was only that of an intermediate venerable. Then she found that Han Fei was quite durable. So she kept increasing the strength and didn't stop until he was at the peak level of the venerable realm. Xia Xiaochan was also speechless. Did this guy eat heaven and earth black iron to transform him? How did he manage to cultivate his physique to this level? The hexagon starfish seemed to have been used to this scene and didn't take it seriously at all. It was still exclaiming, "What a powerful explosion!" Even such a terrifying explosion didn't cause any problems in this space. Can we still get out? Han Fei didn't know how to answer the hexagon starfish's question. This space was indeed absorbing the energy in their bodies. Chun Hao and the others had been here for a long time, so they came to the conclusion that vitality would be swallowed here. Han Fei had experienced such a situation. That was after Xia Xiaochan was taken away by Chun Huangdian. He was resurrected, and on the way back to the 10,000 Demon Valley with Yu Ji, he encountered the fateful holy grass. Now, although the situation was the same, the environment was different. This space was more than 2,000 kilometers wide. Earlier, Ji Chun and Chun Hao were fighting with the puppeteer. The question was, where did the puppets come from? Han Fei's nautical panorama could still be used, but he was a little thin now, so he'd better recover to his peak state. Han Fei pondered. Anyway, there was still a long time before the 1-month deadline. Now, it was only the 4th day. He could stay in the sea-quelling painting for 1 more day. He could also spend 1 more day on his honeymoon. Han Fei said grumpily, "You're the only one who's afraid of death. We're just decorations, aren't we? You haven't found the treasure yet, and you want to leave?" Xia Xiaochan looked around. "Are there any treasures here?" Han Fei was a little guilty. "Anyway, we're already here. Don't panic. Let me cure this Ji Chen first." Before Xia Xiaochan said anything, Master Hexagon exclaimed, "Why are you punishing him? One look, and I can tell he's not a good person. Let him sleep here." Han Fei was exasperated by the hexagon starfish. "You know nothing but fear." Han Fei looked at Xia Xiaochan and said, "Wait and see." Han Fei raised his hands, and the heavenly opening magically shone down, only to see that the broken limbs on Ji Chen's body were growing rapidly. This scene made Luo Xiaobai and hexagon starfish widen their eyes. Last time, Xia Xiaochan was the one being treated. This time, watching Han Fei heal others, he felt that this healing technique was too powerful. He was almost dying, but he was saved by Han Fei. Han Fei immediately consumed 200 years of vitality. For Han Fei now, it was just a drizzle. He didn't know how much life force he had absorbed from this hunt. He probably wouldn't die for 10,000 years, even if he lay in his coffin right now. Seeing that Ji Chun had recovered, while Xia Xiaochan and hexagon starfish were puzzled, Han Fei took out the Tao-devouring bug king he had just obtained. Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but feel disgusted. What is this bug doing? In fact, not only Xia Xiaochan was disgusted, but Han Fei could also feel Ji Chen's resistance. He was a peerless heavenly talent of the Grand Purity Palace. Didn't he dislike it? Han Fei controlled Ji Chun to open his mouth, and then let the Tao-devouring bug king drill into Ji Chen's mouth. Ew, Xia Xiaochan felt her blood freeze. Quang Quang is more suitable to do this. It doesn't matter what his invincible big black hole absorbs. But feeding bugs to a living person? That's hard to accept. The hexagon starfish's tentacles were all scratching, thinking, that's horrible. Han Fei is simply too horrible. As the saying goes, you can kill someone easily, but this guy didn't let them die and even fed them bugs. That's a bit disgusting. Seeing Xia Xiaochan and hexagon starfish's reaction, Han Fei said angrily, "What do you know? You'll know in a moment. Don't be fooled by the fact that this insect can't do anything and is very fragile. But once it's parasitized, it'll be horrible." Han Fei perceived Ji Chen's soul through the void lines and had a particularly big reaction. However, when the Tao-devouring bug king entered Ji Chen's mouth, it turned into a weird liquid-like thing and drilled directly into Ji Chen's brain. After only about 10 minutes, Han Fei sensed that the Tao-devouring bug king had dissolved in Ji Chen's brain. Gudu, Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. He thought that the Tao-devouring bug king just wanted to make a nest in Ji Chen's brain, but it actually wanted his whole brain. Ji-chun suddenly opened his eyes, and his body was slightly stiff. Based on the connection between Han Fei and the Tao-devouring Bug King, he knew that the parasitization had been completed at this moment. He quietly withdrew the void lines. Ji-chun was motionless, and his eyes were dull. Han Fei said, "Can you talk?" Seeing that Ji-chun didn't respond, Han Fei said again, "Let me show you my best swordsmanship." Swish! Ji-chun held the Azure Dragon Sword in his hand and slashed out 2,000 miles with a single slash. A long ravine was left on the ground, which was already in ruins. Xia Xiaya said in surprise, Has he become a puppet? Han Fei shrugged. Yes, I told you that this bug is very powerful. Although it is very weak, it can parasitize people's brains. It can even control kings, not to mention half-kings. The hexagon starfish shivered all over. Han Fei was too terrifying. It would rather sleep in the royal family of mermaids, which was much more comfortable than traveling with Han Fei. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "Can he exert 100% of his strength?" Han Fei nodded. "Theoretically, yes. I'll keep this sea-quelling bizarre sword in his hands for now. Since Ji-chun is a top heavenly talent in the Grand Purity Palace, he is certainly not weak. Plus, with the sea-quelling bizarre treasure, ordinary half-kings are no match for him at all. He can definitely be regarded as a big fighter." Xia Xiaochan said, "But I don't want bugs. Why do I need so many bodyguards? I can run fast. If it weren't for the pioneer sea-state experts, I would have run away long ago. None of them can catch me." Han Fei thought, that's true. Judging from the speed of the heavenly silkworm transformation, Han Fei knew that it was so fast that he couldn't even catch up with it. It seemed that it was good to have wings. Unfortunately, his phantom glass wings had long been absorbed by his body. Although Luo Yunyang could form wings now, it wasn't like the sky silkworm transformation, which could increase his strength in all aspects. Han Fei flipped his hand, and 6 sun moon shells appeared in his hand. Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There's not even a key to the Imperial Palace. It seems that their goal is very clear, which is to come directly to this Whale Valley and haven't had time to explore other places. Xia Xiaochan had no interest in resources now. She had seen a lot of good things. However, the battle in the Dead Man Valley ended in an unexpected way. Xia Xiaochan was greatly relieved, but thinking that there were still people from the investiture of God's heaven outside, she immediately said, "Let's hurry up and let Little White come out to look for treasures." Han Fei nodded, called Little Black and Little White out, and hurriedly said, "Daughter, look, is there any treasure here?" Little White swam to the rock wall on the right without hesitation, but when Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan followed him to the edge of the rock wall, Little White swam in another direction. After swimming through the entire space, Little White returned to the center, looking up and then down from time to time. Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Daughter, did you find it or not?" Han Fei thought to himself, "I didn't find it, so I used the nautical panorama." However, Little White said, "Dad, it seems to be right below us, and it can move, but I don't know how the thing below can come out." Han Fei frowned. "Under our feet?" Even Little White said that he couldn't find the way. Han Fei didn't want to waste his time. So, Han Fei took out the nautical panorama. Crack, 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 the nautical panorama spun rapidly. However, when Han Fei saw the abnormal trajectory of the pointer, it seemed to be moving irregularly in this space like a broken compass. Thinking of something, Han Fei quickly shouted, "Master Hexagon Starfish, can you seal the underground space?" The hexagon starfish nodded. "Probably. Listen to my command. You'll be trapped where I point my knife." Han Fei knew that the duration of the nautical panorama was limited, and it could only last 10 minutes at most. Therefore, as the nautical panorama spun, Han Fei controlled the infinity water and instantly stabbed the knife. In order to get out alive, the hexagon starfish worked hard. The starfish disappeared silently and reappeared silently. In the blink of an eye, its body became 100 meters in size. In the blink of an eye, that place was completely sealed. At this time, the nautical panorama began to tremble rapidly, scurrying around within a radius of 100 meters. The hexagon starfish was overjoyed. I can still shrink. The hexagon starfish quickly shrank from 100 meters in size to half a meter, forcibly controlling the underground thing. At this time, the infinity water drilled down frantically like a drill. Just like this, Han Fei drilled down for more than 20 kilometers before he took out a bead from inside. Just as Han Fei grabbed the bead, before he had time to look at it, he saw the surrounding air change with a hum. Immediately afterward, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan discovered that a gray aura instantly spread to the entire 2,000 kilometers. The next moment, Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan, and the hexagon starfish all retched, feeling that they were going to throw up. What was in this pool? It was so stinky that their souls were trembling. Chapter 1771. Han Fei would never have thought that one day his scalp would be numb, his soul would be shaken, and his eyes, nose, and mouth would bleed slightly. More importantly, even if he didn't breathe, the smell could be transmitted to his body through his skin and touch his soul. Han Fei felt that he would rather take the Poison King and have diarrhea than smell it. Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish's situation was similar to Han Fei's, because the stench was not a physical attack at all, but a special power that directly targeted the soul. 6-Gate Forbidden Area. The hexagon starfish couldn't bear the stench anymore, so he immediately used his ultimate move to seal the place where the three of them were. In this way, the stench couldn't continue to spread. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan retched again, and then looked at each other, who was bleeding from their eyes, nose, and mouth, and then at the hexagon starfish, whose 6 big eyes were all bleeding, and looked at each other in shock. Han Fei was horrified. I didn't expect that the stench could be so bad that it could damage the soul. Xia Xiaochan said, "Never smell this smell again. It's too smelly. What the hell did you do?" The hexagon starfish said, "I'm doomed. I survived so many bad guys, but I may die of the stench in the end. My reputation will be ruined." Han Fei wiped his nosebleed and then glanced at the bead in his hand. Looking at it, information popped up. Name, Sun Calming Bead. Introduction. A deep-sea behemoth has been absorbing all kinds of mutated creatures for a long time. After accumulating too much, it will form horrible filth. In order to prevent the filth from contaminating the body, the Sun Calming Bead can be refined with demonic energy to block the filth. Level C Expanding Realm, Quality, Ultra Quality, Effect. It can suppress filth and keep the body flawless. Swallowable. Note, after swallowing, it can prevent the filth from invading and slowly remove the filth in the body. After reading this bead, Han Fei frowned. Why did it feel so weird? It was like the cave in the back mountain of the Thug Academy in the Blue Sea town, which had been filled with a stench for thousands of years. This bead was like a gate. As soon as the gate was opened, the stench would hit them. Seeing Han Fei's face turn green, Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but be nervous. What is this? Could it be an evil being? Han Fei shook his head slightly. Of course it's not evil. The weird air outside is evil. The effect of this bead was endless. It could dispel the impurities in the body. As long as we eat it. Hey, what's your reaction? When Han Fei said that he would eat it, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish retreated to the edge of the domain, and the hexagon starfish's big eyes almost narrowed. One of them said forcefully, "Starfish's body is flawless." No, no, no. I don't need this. Fearing that Han Fei would give it to her, Xia Xiaochan said carefully, I'm also flawless. You can eat it if you want. Han Fei was amused. It's true that it stinks outside, but it's not stinky here. Ugh, how could women accept this? Even the hexagon starfish couldn't accept it. Han Fei grabbed the Sun Calming Pearl speechlessly, thinking to himself, you two don't know what's good for you. The treasure is right in front of you, but you can't wait to avoid it. It seems that you really don't have a chance with the treasure. Han Fei glanced at the Sun Calming Pearl, and then at the gray mist-like stench outside. He made up his mind. How can you catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? Immediately, Han Fei pinched his nose and stuffed the Sun Calming Pearl into his mouth. Ugh, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish felt their blood freeze and almost collapse on the spot. They didn't want to feel the stink again in their lives. Xia Xiaochan said, You're not allowed to kiss me for 3 days. Han Fei rolled his eyes speechlessly. Ignorant. In fact, Han Fei was also a little disgusted, but what could he do? He had to eat it anyway. He just had to put up with it for the time being. He would definitely forget about it in the future. After half an hour, Xia Xiaochan and Hexagon Starfish said almost at the same time, There's a stink. Han Fei. The Hexagon Starfish was horrified. Han Fei, you've become stinky. Xia Xiaochan exclaimed, There are impurities in your body that are being expelled. Han Fei looked down, only to find that on the surface of his skin, an extremely thin layer of gray matter was escaping. This time, Han Fei felt terrible. The introduction of the demon purification pot just now didn't say that he would become stinky. It just said that the sun-calming pearl would slowly expel the impurities in his body. Slowly? Han Fei was shocked. This word seemed a bit ambiguous. However, fortunately, the smell was not very stinky. After all, Han Fei was still at the peak level of the Venerable Realm, and his physique had been cultivated to an appalling level. Therefore, even if there were impurities in his body, it was only a small amount. But the sun-calming pearl had run into his dantian at this moment, accompanying his Dao seed. The 2 pearls rotated in his dantian. Han Fei knew that the sun-calming bead was starting to take effect. Han Fei glanced at Xia Xiaochan and the Hexagon Starfish and decided to give up. Anyway, he had eaten the sun-calming bead, but he still had to find this treasure. Didn't it say that after eating it and suppressing it, he could avoid the invasion of filth? If he went out now, he wouldn't be able to smell the stench anymore, right? Han Fei said, Come on, you 2 stay here. I'll go see where the treasure of the Whale Valley is. It took us a lot of effort to come here. We can't get nothing. That would be a great loss. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise. Did you eat the pearl to block the stench outside? Han Fei said, I told you that it is a treasure to suppress filth. Okay, now the danger should be gone. Otherwise, there would be too many barriers set up by this king. With that said, Han Fei appeared outside the seal of the Hexagon Starfish with a swish. When Han Fei stood in this stinky space again, he didn't hold his breath at first, but after inhaling a little bit, he immediately vomited. Seeing this scene, Xia Xiaochan and the Hexagon Starfish were shocked. Xia Xiaochan said, You'd better come back. Let's wait for the stench to dissipate before going out. The Hexagon Starfish nodded. Yes, let's go into the small world. Han Fei immediately held his breath, and when he no longer smelled the stench, he said to the 2 of them, I was just teasing you. You 2 are so scared. Xia Xiaochan breathed a sigh of relief, and then immediately said angrily, Next time you scare me, I'll stab you to death. Han Fei, after the sun-calming pearl was taken away by Han Fei, this space was no longer so indestructible. At the place where Han Fei dug the sun-calming pearl just now, the ground near that place was cracking, and cracks were everywhere, revealing a space underground. Swish, Han Fei drilled through the ground for more than 20 kilometers and appeared in the small world under his feet. Immediately, Han Fei was horrified. He saw a gray lake. This was the source of the stench. However, Han Fei had seen all kinds of mayors. As the 9th immortal master, how could he retreat in the face of a septic tank? With a thought, Han Fei took out a dozen sun moon shells at once. These were all emptied sun moon shells. Han Fei threw the sun moon shells into the sun moon shells and saw a massive amount of great dirty liquid was pouring into the sun moon shells. This jar took a total of 12 sun moon shells to fill up the entire lake. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh with emotion. When the little fatty Chao Chiu was refining the Poison King, he was so high-spirited. The days when he swept across the level 3 fishery with the Poison King were so memorable. Now, this gray liquid was equivalent to a treasure like the Poison King. However, unlike the Poison King, this thing had a visible shape and color. People could tell at a glance that it was not a good thing, so it depended on how he used it. Of course, this gray liquid was not the key. The key was that at the bottom of this gray liquid pool, there were a lot of treasures lying in a mess. Han Fei grabbed with one hand, and these treasures floated in the air. Among them, there were long swords, stone tablets, bricks, jade pots, small seals. All these items carried the Tao of the imperial palace. Han Fei counted carefully and found that there were as many as 67 items. But even so, Han Fei couldn't help but sigh in his heart. What did these kings rob in the imperial palace? They brought back a bunch of random things, but they didn't even bring back a few decent things. These 67 keys, plus the 14 keys he already had, made a total of 81 keys. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. This time, he had made a fortune. The Snow Maidens only wanted 20 keys, and Huang Jie, the myriad poison ancestor, also wanted to trade with him. Besides, after 32 years, the imperial palace will be explored. Can the Yin-Yang Heaven also become a force and participate in it? Although there were 81 keys now, some of them were things that he couldn't give up, such as the mystic Yellowstone. Han Fei would definitely not exchange it with others. In addition to the treasures, there was a cave in the deepest part of the septic tank below. He didn't know if it was the exit or not. Of course, Han Fei was not in a hurry to go out. He would go out tomorrow. Anyway, he was not in a hurry.